I think we can talk about the effect of Jimmy Dore's argumentative style on this discourse.
Well, it's not an argumentative style.
Okay.
It's not, I don't mind his style. I think that when you put out and make the argument over and over again that she's a sellout and they're a fraud, I think that does damage.
We can and we should talk about that, but that's different than making an argument for why force the vote is good or bad. And
if you ask me why I didn't support it, that's why. Because I didn't want to associate myself with a attack.
So that's honest. That's honest.
Oh, yeah.
So you're not saying that you actually think that force the vote was an effective strategy or a bad idea. You didn't like that it was associated with Jimmy Dore.
I thought, like I've said this 3 times on this, and I thought it was a middling idea. When I found out that they were leveraging other stuff that I thought had more material benefit and not. But
it doesn't have more material benefit because they could have asked at least for you to get rid of all
you and I have a disagreement. I believe that exempting PAYGO.
But they didn't exempt PAYGO.
Excuse me. At a time where we desperately need funding, we need expansion on all sorts of things, ranging from expanded unemployment insurance. We need checks. All of that, I think that was a valuable get.
It was valuable, but it wasn't a get.
Huh?
It was valuable, but it wasn't a get. You have no knowledge if their failure to force the vote resulted in getting those things, if those things were already planned concessions or not. Moreover, part of my demand was to get rid of PAYGO entirely. So if we're talking about the material value of either of those things.
Yes, your demand was you. Look. I'm saying there is an argument, okay? But neither one of us knows how much you could have leveraged at this point.
Well, here's
you want to argue that you think that their negotiations, that their ask wasn't big enough. Fine. I don't have a big issue.
That is what I'm arguing. Here's why.
But as to why I wanted to distance myself as fast as I could, because I'm not going to be part of a project that disempowers for what I think is a highly speculative tactic that I think is dubious, frankly. But again, I was perfectly willing to just let 1,000 flowers bloom. Like you said, there was no strategy on my part to go like, I'm going to support this so that Bree signs on to it, for instance, and then I'm going to pull the rug out. No, it was and to say that Jimmy's not associated with force the vote.
I didn't say that Jimmy's not associated with force the vote.
To say that he wasn't the biggest advocate or the person most close to
social. Very central to it. It was his idea.
That is why when he started to use it as a leverage to disempower the progressives in Congress, I decided I'm done.
So I'd like to address that point, if I may. I don't believe that Jimmy is trying to disempower the progressives in Congress. What I believe Jimmy is doing, whether or not you agree with him or the tactic he's using, is trying to use his platform to pressure the elected officials, the progressives that we have worked so hard and have this unprecedented number, to your point, in Congress, to do the thing that we want them to do, which is to use power when it falls in their lap. Now, in this instance, we didn't need to get a majority of progressives in Congress to enact the plan. That was the whole spark and magic of it. That with a very small number of people.
Well, let's take that first premise, though. Take the first premise that you made, the assertion that you don't think Jimmy's agenda is to disempower progressives.
I'm sorry. Which way is this going to go? I feel like I'm in the middle of a point. I feel like I've been letting you.
Okay, go.
If I could just finish this point. I have like a whole notepad and notes that I'm trying to catch up on from the various issues that you brought up that I think are important to address. Jimmy's perspective, I don't want to speak for him, but it seems obvious to me what he's doing is to be the farthest, angriest version of the left, to create political pressure on
and I don't want to get too narrow with, something that was like an online thing, but there was a big controversy at the beginning of the year, you may be aware of an attempt by some members of the internet world that some of whom identified as left, arguably, that they should, the members of the squad should, and progressives in general, I guess, in the House, should withhold their votes for Nancy Pelosi's leadership, and in return get a vote on Medicare for all, which would have surely lost at a minimum 113, like that's the number of people who signed on to co-sponsor it, to the remainder of the House, which is about 313, or no, 20, I guess. So it's 320. Had they done that, had they been successful, had they decided this is a good idea for whatever reason, and they had done that, and they had gotten their vote, and they lost their vote, and then that was the end of the strategy. Do you think, and let's assume that also dragged out for a couple of days, because it probably would have.
That's what they were calling for. Yeah.
They were calling to drag it out so that it would create some notice that there was going to be a vote on Medicare for all.
Which was January 4th and 5th, right?
Right. And hopefully they get it done by the 6th. But let's just eliminate that, because that would have been very hard to predict that was going to happen. Yeah. But what we do know would happen would be that it would push back the infrastructure bill. I mean, the COVID relief bill. Right? Because that came in very quickly, a couple of weeks later, and it would have slowed the construction of that bill. Do you think that at that point that they would be gun shy to do this time? Like, I mean,
well, it depends on how it played out. But if they took heat for making them look like clowns, particularly while people are voting in Georgia for those 2 Senate races,
right?
All for a vote that then got hammered. The next time they came back and were like, we need to organize and vote as a block, the stink of that would certainly be on the strategy, and you might be less likely to get that key addition, which was the center. They're not centrist really, but the swing district Democrats who were like, no, that you guys are right. We do need to vote as a block on this,
right?
Because then now it would be all tied up in these in the last effort, which
right. There's something called keep your powder dry for when you really need it. When for when the whites of the eyes are there, and this is that moment, right? I mean, this is the make or break moment. If the progressives don't do this, and they still may not get, we may not, it may be nothing, but this was I think it seems to me, their place to take a stand. That has the opportunity to provide meaningful material difference to people's lives, as opposed to a stunt that was ostensibly to identify the enemies of
talking about impeachment then. They were talking about $2,000 checks. They're talking about, elect us. McConnell's no longer the majority leader. Democrats are in charge. We're going to give you
I don't think anything.
There you go. It's free real estate.
No, I agree. I don't think anything that was going to happen in January was going to be central, but it was like one more association with Donald Trump that they hewed themselves to him, and they both of them tried to do that. And it was not effective. It was barely. And I think to a certain extent, Susan Collins was allowed to sort of create distance between herself and Trump, which was, you have a tool, and if you have a hammer, and if you bang your head with the hammer, it's not going to help build. You're not going to help you build a house. You got to actually hit the nail on the head. But I think in this instance, again, it is forcing the Republicans to be with Donald Trump. And I don't know that I think some of them definitely do, but some of them don't want to be.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, like, again, it's hard to argue with, again, Trump won North Carolina, and he probably took Richard Burr with him. And Maine, that's kind of a different situation where Collins was, got enough Biden-Collins voters to get reelected. I mean, these are overdetermined things, elections, and, we can sit here and we can bullshit about what we think is going to be the case. But, the fact of the matter is, we don't really know. And Nick Silver doesn't know. The voters don't even know.
I agree. I mean, that's sort of also my point with all of this, all of the force to vote stuff is that these things are very, very hard to predict. And when these type of tactics require this level of specificity and of outcome and incumbent upon reactions of the entire population, I think it can be tricky.
Wait, Brady, before we take questions, I want to go to one more point of conversation.
I'm just asking them to start putting them in the Slack. We don't have to start answering them.
Oh, okay. All right.
Start writing them down.
As long as they're nice and pleasant. As long as they're pleasant and complimentary.
Send the unpleasant ones too.
Let's get some nice questions going. I have one question, and it is kind of central to something that the two of you have been talking about, and it's obviously something that backs me as well. And I will just frame it in this way. Sam, as someone who has been a leftist radio host for the past 79 years, what do you view your job as? What do you view your obligations as, if anything?
No, I think that's I mean, they have changed with the platform I'm on. I mean, when I was on radio, reaching, arguably any given time, with the potential to reach literally millions, I perceived it as different than one where it's, a fraction of that. And for me, I like to amplify different sort of ideas and histories and understanding of contexts, and I like to, on some level, educate people as to how things work, so they have a better understanding of things. I mean, I don't, and I perceive that I'm arming people for engagement in this stuff, with just a better understanding of it. And then I also, they're within like the YouTube culture of the right, for the most part. I go after those people because I feel like I have a set of tools that I can deploy and do that. And I have come increasingly over the past 5 years, maybe 4 or 5 years, to be sensitive of like what's happening on YouTube in terms of like young people.
So when you began, correct me if I'm wrong here, at 2005, I believe, with Air America, was that 2004? Okay, so about when it started being acceptable to criticize the Iraq War and the War on Terror. About when that started to be okay in the main.
Yeah, I mean, it was still not acceptable at that time. Like, we had to leave the studio with a bat. Literally, no, I'm not joking. We both had bats. I mean, there was still a significant amount of death threats, and you were alienated.
So I guess what I'm trying to get at is, and maybe this is like very good faith for me. You've been at this game for a while, and you have tangoed with Nancy Pelosi in the past rhetorically. And I'm sure you remember when Nancy Pelosi, when the Democrats won back the Senate, when they were not expected to, in 2006. They won back the House.
Won back the House. They didn't win back the Senate until 2008.
No, that's false. They won back in 2006.
The House in 2006.
No, in the Senate. The Senate in 2006, they won back the Senate. They had 51 votes in the U.S. Senate. They won it with Jim Webb and
Tester?
Yes, and Tester, and a few others. I promise you that's the case.
Democrats gained 6 Senate seats by defeating Republican senators in the states of Missouri, Montana, Ohio, and Page is still loading.
Rhode Island was another one.
Okay, 2006.
Yeah.
And they had the House and the Senate.
Reed became majority leader in 2007, and Pelosi became the Speaker of the House.
Okay.
And it was then that the left wanted the Congress to revoke the funding for the Iraq War, to stop the war. That, this is what we've been fighting for the past 4 years now. And we elected the House. And this came with a lot of left energy, and a lot of people had soured on the war. So defund the war. And then another demand was impeach Bush.
Yeah.
And neither of these things happened. Neither of these things happened.
Nancy Pelosi was bragging about it.
Bragging
that she didn't do
it was within Nancy Pelosi's purview as the Speaker of the House, and the House is supposed to, that's the people's house. It's fundamental to our constitutional system that the president just can't wage war that has to be paid for by the House of Representatives. And so defunding the war, like just refusing to pay for it, not even voting against it, just refusing to pay for it, would be enough to stop the war. And they didn't do it.
Correct.
And they didn't do it. So I just, reaching back to that history.
Well, let me
if you see any parallels to that.
I don't know about parallels per se. Like there wasn't, what happened in 2006 was the war was what was driving a lot of activist energy. I think ultimately what won the House at that time was corruption. Mm-hmm. This guy who was involved in a scandal where he was basically preying upon his interns. It's Capitol Hill pages, and there was cover up from it, and you had like the number 2. I can't remember his name, but the guy from Buffalo. Yeah, I mean it was extensive, but the worst was the big one that hit in the fall was this Mark Foley scandal.
The Foley scandal, yeah.
And I could tell you, I moderated a panel with Conyers and with Elizabeth Holtzman and I think it was Lewis Lapham at the town hall, and Conyers had a book like this of what you would impeach George Bush for. Mm-hmm. And people should not misunderstand. I've been saying for probably close to a year, particularly around when Pelosi first announced the PAYGO thing, which I think was in the fall of 2019, that I had come around to basically the position of I would rather someone whose ideology, I would rather Tim Ryan be Speaker of the House, because then it puts progressives in direct oppositional. Even from the conventional wisdom, I don't think Nancy Pelosi is a progressive, but she has these sort of bona fides because she's from San Francisco.
Yeah. And she was one of the co-founders of the Congressional Progressive. In both worlds.
I can understand why a half a dozen members of the House don't want to simply be responsible for not, for Nancy Pelosi not being elected or for being obstructionist to that happen. But if I had my druthers, I would rather see Tim Ryan and just be in opposition to who the speaker is, be perceived as directly oppositional to them ideologically. But I think it's easy to make assumptions about how things are going to turn out and not know the cost that different, members of the caucus perceive. But that's what I would have done.
Bri, you made this comic?
So I did editorial cartoons for the Crimson when I was in college. I had wit days. And this was a cartoon that I did around the Foley scandal.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
Again,
I should probably take these down because they did not age well, all of them.
How interesting that it's about Facebook. The one thing that.
And that's when Facebook was just at Harvard, right?
By that time, I think it had broadened out because there was another cartoon I saw as I was scrolling through just now, where it was a joke about how everyone can get on Facebook now, which is not very camaraderie, to use the word of the day.
I remember this moment that defines the 2006 win for me. There was a congressman, he was the number 3, I think, in the Republican caucus, maybe the number 2. And he was from, I think, Buffalo. Maybe it was like the 29th district in New York. I can't remember his name. And he had a press conference, and they wanted, and as this Foley scandal was breaking, that it became clear that the leadership knew about Foley. He held a press conference and brought
Green Party presidential candidate Cornell West made his opposition to war one of the cornerstones of his platform, speaking at an anti-war event sponsored by nonprofit organization Code Pink yesterday. Dr. West unleashed on the pro-war zealots in Washington. Let's watch.
There was a time in which the Black community was the most anti-war community in the history of the American empire, but here come Barack Obama dropping 71 bombs every day, 26,117 in 1 year in 7 countries, walking around with the Nobel Peace Prize. That's a key sweat moment. Something just ain't right.
Here to break down the urgency to establish peace in Ukraine and the forces opposing it is Dr. West himself, along with Code Pink's national co-director, Danica Katovich. Guys, welcome to the show. Dr. West, I want to get your immediate reaction to a lot of the labor unrest that we're seeing across the country right now, despite the fact that Joe Biden claims to be the most pro-union president in history.
Well, I mean, one part of it is just it's part of the blowback. You see, Biden has been rationalizing corporate greed for a long time. You ask anybody in Delaware about the credit card companies, ask anybody on Wall Street about how Biden is actually the recipient of millions and millions of dollars. So part of it has to do with his hypocrisy. So in that sense, it's just a matter of just telling the truth. And that's why I'm blessed to stand here with my dear sister, Danica, because Code of Pink has been 11 in a loaf. It's been one of the forces for good. And it is the calling the question, not just militarism, but American imperialism. It's a critique of the empire, a critique of those 800 military units around the world and all that money going to military industrial complex and hardly any money left for jobs with a living wage, health care, quality education.
Dr. West, staying on this topic of war, obviously last night you were at the Code Pink event, and today you are coming to us live from a protest event that Code Pink just did in the Hart Congressional Building this morning. In Bernie Sanders' offices, as I understand it, as it was described last night. Can you talk a little bit about the choice to go and protest at progressive offices about the anti-war issue, especially as we're talking on the eve of House Leader Kevin McCarthy being ousted from the speakership position, in part because of tension between the Freedom Caucus, who wanted to put limits on funding to Ukraine, and basically the rest of the establishment on both sides of the aisle, including to the disappointment of some progressives, seemingly all of the squad members and the self-described progressives on the left.
Well, the progressives just need to be exposed. Their accommodation to militarism. Now, it was, of course, Cold Peak, my dear sister Medea Benjamin, and my dear sister Danica, who made that decision. And I love Bernie Sanders. He's my dear brother. He's wrong. And I don't know you get a chance to speak your mind on this, my dear sister.
Yeah, of course. You know, the working class in the United States can't be fooled when we have trillions of dollars in debt and suffocating debt, student debt, medical debt, when we have over hundreds of thousands of people who are unhoused in this country, in the wealthiest country in the entire world, in the entire history of the world. The working class can't be fooled when you tell us that we don't have enough money for healthcare, we don't have enough money to fund public colleges, we don't have enough money for infrastructure or public transportation, and you can mobilize over $100 billion for Ukraine in just over a year. And when we should have progressive leaders in Congress, we should have some progressive Democrats calling for less austerity and more money for the people when they can mobilize over $100 billion for war and $800 billion, almost $900 billion for the Pentagon budget next year. And we don't have a single champion in Congress calling for this or diplomacy in Ukraine.
Dr. West, I want to stick to that point that Danica just made about the funding to Ukraine. So a CNN poll came out August 4th by SSRS that showcased 54% of Americans, Democrats, independents, and Republicans, do not want additional funding for Ukraine. You're a presidential candidate. What would your message be? And Danica, I'd love to get your thoughts on this as well. What's the message to conservative voters, Dr. West, who may not necessarily be looking at you as a candidate, but I do think you may have a compelling argument that some conservative.
Welcome to Straight Outta Politics. I'm your host for today. We're going to jump right into it with this clip right here. If you hadn't heard, it's sort of breaking. This interview was done while they were at Bernie Sanders' office for protests. Cole Pink, that is. I'm not sure if Cornell West was there, but I know Cole Pink was there. And one of the Bernie Sanders had, at least I know one of the protesters was arrested for a particular sign. And I think it was a Bernie quote. Don't quote me on that until we get to it, but I think it was a Bernie quote and he had him arrested. And that's why I wanted to kind of preface that with this video. But there's a lot in this video that's also good. So let me go ahead and address it before we get the answer. I stopped it on purpose because I want the answer. I'm going to play his answer to this question. But yeah, Bernie sent, Cole Pink, and this is another segment we're going to do. Cole Pink and Cole Pink put on a piece in Ukraine. Sabi covered it. And Cornel West was one of the speakers, and he's getting attacked for that. So actually, let me go to the topics because I'm going over the topics for today. So let's do that at least, and then I'll get. I still can't believe this graphic right here. I still can't believe that Kevin McCarthy is gone, but he is. But let's throw up this graphic, and that's the main story. And I was trying to just play some clips before we got started to sort of give the backstory for if you didn't know, or if you just needed a refresher of what some of the things that Ryan Grimm, that name is so fitting for him, Ryan Grimm, and Sam Cedar. So, but the capture or the graphic says it all. Briahna Gray was right, and the reason I decided to title it and even give her her flowers on the thumbnail is because, well, this is not the reason, but this is how I discovered her tweets. Like, I log in to Twitter, so I haven't had a phone in several days. So you may have noticed, you may have not noticed, but I haven't had a phone. I recently had a phone, so when I log in to Twitter finally, and the first tweets, there's like 6 tweets from Briahna, sort of like running a victory lap, in my opinion, about the strategy that she was the most visible, most active advocate for the first to vote, meaning she was going on different shows. She was willing to debate people. She was trying to get, so she was one of the forefront. I would put Crystal was participating. I don't know if she was one of the ones leading, but Crystal was up there. Justin Jackson, which hopefully he'll get back into podcasting, but because I think he retired from the NFL, and a bunch of other people. So I felt like, all of us sort of had this opinion, but she deserved to have this moment of, not that she thought of the idea, because she didn't, but that she was relentless in her pursuit of trying to get this strategy. So she deserves all of the flowers in the world, because she has been proven right. And all of us in essence have been proven right. We'll get to that main story in a little bit. I'm just teasing it a little bit. And then a couple of other stories that are kind of related. Another big news is Nina Turner finally made her announcement. And she's been teasing an announcement at least for several months. I would think it's been in several months. She's been teasing an announcement. She finally made it, and it's a good thing. I mean, it's good. It's a sort of a worker strike back. And the reason I'm calling the Democratic version is because Nina Turner is aligned with the Democratic Party. So this is the Democratic version of worker strike back. So we'll be talking about that announcement. And it's funny because I was thinking this for the segment, and then somebody else tweeted it. Due Dissidence tweeted it, and I'll show you that tweet in a little bit. But that's funny. But then we're going to talk about removing the speaker, the fallout, just some of the reactions since he's been removed. We're going to kind of cover a little bit of that. We're going to talk about the attacks being waged on the Peace in Ukraine event, and in particular, Cornell West. We're going to talk about that. And then cover this because I saw somebody's tweet this morning or yesterday, and it just made me think of this. Like, yeah, he's running as an independent, that is RFK, but he is still a Zionist. Like, what am I thinking? Like, no, he's still, independent's great, but you're still a Zionist. So one of our segments, hopefully I'll get to it. Independent or not, RFK is still a Zionist. So we're going to get to that. Oh, and then Trump as speaker replacement. There is talk, or his name has been put into the pot at least. Marjorie Taylor Greene saying she tweets this, and I'll bring it up when we get to the segment. But she tweets about the only person that she will support right now for speaker is Donald Trump. And Donald Trump, I think, has said, yeah, he would do it. You know how oh my God. You know what type of oh my God, I can't even imagine that circus. That circus, right when he gets in there, all the investigations on him, that's over. That shit's over. However he can do it. I know he's not the DOJ where he can just say, hey, it's over. He's not, Merrick Garland. I'm saying whatever way that his power as a speaker to affect anything that's involving him, he absolutely would dabble in that. And he is a ruthless negotiator. He is the person. I guess I would be signed sort of like this, but he's a person that would let the whole shit go. No, I'm not that far. So I wouldn't say I'm that far, but he's like, he'll sit on his hands and negotiate until he gets what he wants, and he doesn't care if it sinks the boat. Yeah, I'm not that far now that I think about it. But let's get back to this here. And actually, I'm going to go to the tweet. So we're going to start the segment or finish out the segment by starting with the tweet. And let's go to this is just this thing that fell in my lap. That's why it's not in the description box, but this here. And this is how I knew she covered it, that I went to the video and saw this video. So this is the tweet I saw. This is what Code Pink tweets out. And let me pause it before we play it here, so I can preface this the appropriate way. So let's get back into it here. So this is Bernie Sanders has protesters arrested, and this is the tweet where I get the title of this segment. And let me blow it up and read it. This is Code Pink. So I would say that's a legitimate source enough to report it as such, and that is, quote, Bernie Sanders had me arrested for holding up his own quotes. More arrest at Sanders' office as we ask him to push for negotiations for peace in Ukraine. And here we go. Here is that footage. Let's listen. That was a quote. Now I'm going to rewind it and see if I can read it. That's pretty disgusting. Where are we, guys? Is this Earth? Is this Earth? Bernie Sanders is now Nancy Pelosi. I mean, because when how AOC catapulted when she joined, I think it was Sunrise Movement that was protesting out of Nancy Pelosi's office, and they were being arrested. What is this? What is this? Isn't this very similar? So let me rewind it a little bit. This is amazing to me. That this is where Bernie Sanders. So 2 days ago, Nick and I covered his tweet, and now this. Let me see if I can get with the because the guy just thought he was getting arrested, regular arrest, but the guy specifically says something about the words written on this paper. And now let me see here. We must work hard. This says Bernie, quote, we must work hard to achieve a something and mutually agreeable resolution. I can't see what that word is, but I'm sure some of you know this quote. Let me see if I'm going to be real quiet. Let me see if I can hear what the officer tells him. Actually, no, they have that written. They have the caption, so I'll read the caption. My bad. I'm gonna be arrested for holding a sign. Yes, the fact that you're demonstrating.
Thank you, Leo. Why are you getting arrested?
For holding up a sign, a quote from Bernie Sanders calling for negotiation. Bernie Sanders had me arrested for holding up his own quote.
We really have to come to a realization here. Like, we joke, and we make light of it. We make memes and use profanity towards him. We have to understand Bernie Sanders is not even the Bernie Sanders of 2020. He's certainly not the Bernie Sanders of 2016, and he's certainly not the mayor of Burlington, Virginia. Vermont. He's not the mayor. That was the best version of Bernie. He has slid to where he is now, which is basically a Democratic shield. A person can inspire people in one point of their life and become something different. That's possible. What's the guy that recently died? John, the civil rights guy. John, I'm sure one of you will know. Let me look at the comments. The black man, person that recently died, maybe in the last year. His name is John something, but he's another example. Yeah, John Lewis. Thank you, Dana. Dana always have that shit popping like that. And Dana's the one, like, when I say something in the stream, if I reference something, Dana will find that article or find whatever I reference, that video, and put it in a tweet, in a thread for this episode. So she does that. She's awesome. Thank you, Dana. But this here, John Lewis fell into this category where he did good things in a different time in his life. And then he became a person taking corporate money, shilling for Democrats, selling out the black community. Those two things can happen. Those two things can happen. And this is terrible. Bernie has reached the point of no return. Bernie Sanders, from when he told Kyle, I'll come on the Crystal and Kyle show, but Kyle can't be there because of criticism of what he was doing. I think he called him some sort of name concerning war. Bernie Sanders has always been suspect for foreign policy. The video I played yesterday of Michael Parenti, and maybe I'll get to it. It's calling out Bernie Sanders. Yeah, I think it'll be fitting to bring it up. Calling out Bernie Sanders, saying that he's always been terrible on foreign policy. And now, see, it's one thing to be terrible on foreign policy and you're not at war. So 2020, 2016, we're not at a war that Bernie agrees with. So his foreign policy doesn't really take the forefront. But now we had a war that half the population, more than half the population, is now saying we don't want no more funding, but he's tweeting out we need to fund Ukraine. Like it is this is pretty sad. It is sad. I'll play this video one more time and get a little reaction. We can move on. But this, he has reached a point of no return. Thank you again, Dana. I'll drop that down. Let's go back to this, and I'll play it from beginning to end, 22 seconds without any commentary.
Thank you, Leo. Why are you getting arrested?
We're holding up a sign, a quote from Bernie Sanders calling for negotiation. Bernie Sanders had me arrested for holding up his own quote.
Let's see what people are saying on this. That is some bullshit. Good Lord. Okay, now they're gonna show me the sign. Good thing I showed. Good thing I went down. So here's the sign. Let me actually play the video. Maybe they read it. So I'll play the video to give them the opportunity to read.
We must work hard to achieve a realistic and mutually agreeable resolution, one that is acceptable to Ukraine, Russia, the United States, and our European allies. So let's sit down, let's negotiate, and let's come up with a diplomatic solution. That is the
Bernie Sanders' reaction to that? Let me call the Popo. Popo, yeah, that one right there. That motherfucker right there. Him. With that quote. That guy. That's Bernie. That's his reaction. This is why RBN says there are no heroes here. There are no heroes here. None. Even the people we like and we love, like Cornell West, Claudia De La Cruz, these are people I would say both. I would advocate vote for either one of them. In my state, I have the advantage of having everybody I would want to on the left on a ballot. So the furthest left person I'm going to be voting for. But what are we doing? You, as a supporter of Bernie, you supported him because he said he's anti-war. He's anti-war. And then you see this. What do? Literally, what Democrat can you vote for progressive? Don't even talk about no corporate Democrat. What progressive can you vote for if you're anti-war and don't want to fund Ukraine? Am I missing somebody? Maybe there is somebody. Is there somebody that I'm missing in the audience? I'll wait. If there's, let's go through the list. Elected. Bernie, no. AOC, no. Ilhan, Pramila. Who else is there? Ayanna, I guess if you call her progressive. The ones that call themselves correct. That's just because I don't call them, but Rokana. Is there anyone? Bernie? No. So nobody has an answer to that. But let's listen to the rest of this video from Code Pink. This is Medea. And Medea's we like Medea. But like I said, nobody's perfect. I'm not perfect. Medea's not perfect. We also had criticism of her when she went to that AOC event and didn't cause ruckus there. That squad event, I'm sorry. But let's listen to the rest of Medea from Code Pink.
Is the good Bernie. Yeah. That's the Bernie we want. Not the other
He's
Bernie
gone.
who
He's
is
gone.
okaying billions and billions
He's
of
gone.
dollars in weapons and says
We have to
you
let him
can't
go.
talk to Putin. And we have one word answer to Bernie when he says you can't talk to Putin, because he said that to us. We say, try. Right? Try. We want to see what the result of Biden talking to Putin is, right? We want to hear that. We want to know that they've had not one conversation, lots of conversations. We want Bernie to
So let me just let
call
it
for a
play.
ceasefire and for peace talks.
And
I don't think that's
follow.
too much. I think others will follow. We're going to go to the offices of the squad today. We think that the Democrats would be with us if it was a Republican White House. Yeah. We really do feel that way. We feel that for Democrats.
Think about what she's saying there. And think about the people, I'm talking about progressive Democrats now. So these are supposedly the good ones. Think about the people that she's talking about. If this was a Trump war, would AOC feel fine being against it? Would the squad come out against it? Now think about if you support them. If you're a person here right now listening, you support them, what type of person is that you're supporting? Where all it takes for them to flip on a switch to become a warmonger is the person in the White House. They don't give a damn about the several 100,000 people that have died. Why are we supporting Democrats? That's my short little rant on Dem exit. Let's continue with the segment. Like, that's pretty disgusting. I'll let her actually no, let's move on to another receipt here. So that's that. And then oops, let me go more out a little more here. Actually, you know what? Let me see if there's more in the thread. Let me make sure there's not more in the thread that I'm missing here. So they put up what he said there. There is not more in the thread, not at least not from Code Pink. All right, so then let's go back to some more reaction here, and this is from Bree. Now, this is how I knew she covered it. Now, they didn't get as far as to talk about who the arrest or anything, but we spoke to Cornell West and Code Pink activist Danica K this morning on Rising, straight from the protest at Bernie's office. Watch here, and that's what we watched in the intro. And let me zoom in on this tweet because they got a couple of items here. Breaking. Let's read this here. Breaking. Bernie arrests, let me just say the full name. Bernie Sanders arrests nearly 10 activists who tried to meet with him to discuss peace in Ukraine. That's democracy right there, right, guys? A representative who represents people not wanting to talk to people. The police handcuffed activists simply for holding a sign quoting Bernie Sanders in 2022 when he said we needed diplomatic solutions. Now he says we need weapons and endless slaughter. And then we'll just kind of go through some of the protest pictures and videos here. That's the quote. We saw the video where they read it, so that's what that is there. This is one of the video.
Do you have any comment? I'm from Vermont, and I voted for Bernie.
Right, right. So your constituent can't talk to you? Again, if you are so excited to vote for a progressive Democrat, who can you vote for as a progressive Democrat? Doesn't matter where in the country, who's opposed to this war. There might be some. Would love to have their names. If anybody knows, drop them in the thing here. Did anybody drop any names? Let me see. That's awesome. As a person who knows the Star Wars trilogy, Bernie Sanders is Anakin Skywalker. You were supposed to be the chosen one. That is a great, great analogy. Aaron, you just made, who is this? President Jafar. You just made the graphic for this clip here. Put Bernie Sanders, Aaron. Make Bernie Sanders Anakin Skywalker, or make it to appear where, of course, he's Anakin Skywalker and grows into Darth Vader. That is a great analogy. So you just made the thumbnail for this clip here. But let's continue with the rest of the protest.
Every time from Congress on, I wasn't there when he was mayor, but I worked for him and his campaign. I believed in him, and he has crushed all my hopes.
This is painful because y'all can see it differently. I'm not telling you to have this opinion. What I see when I see black officers carrying people away from anywhere is I see a slave dressed up as a clown helping his slave master. That's what I see. So this is a disgusting sight to me. Not just a police, it's a black police officer. So that's an insert. Maybe it wasn't needed, but this is extra disgusting to me.
For some kind of sanity within this building. He recently tweeted out that he wants to see more funding go to Ukraine a couple of days ago. Can I get any reactions to that? I'm horrified. I'm horrified. I watched the carnage going on over there, and how can anyone?
That's why I could. How can you be a police officer? You're hearing what's going on. You're hearing what people are saying. How are you not going? Wait a minute. I'm helping the motherfucking bad guys here. I'm taking away the good people, and I'm helping the bad guys. Like I couldn't do that. I would like, hey, turn the camera off because I'm about to let her go right here. They would catch me real quick. I wouldn't be known as a crooked officer. I'll be known. They would call me a goody two-shoe because I'll be letting everybody go. But anyway, let's continue.
Cluster bombs. We're on the brink of nuclear war. How can he not? All the things he says, how can he not?
Why are they arresting
Because
you?
Thank you for holding up a sign, a quote from Bernie Sanders calling for dialogue. In Bernie Sanders' office, they seem to suggest that war is solidarity, which is madness. How they're co-opting the language of peace and liberation to lead us to World War III. It's crazy. They're so out of touch. Not just with
all these officers are hearing this stuff. They're hearing it. You got to be going like, these people are making some fucking great points here. Why are we doing this shit? But you are part. It's like you're, to go with the Star Wars analogy, but you're just a stormtrooper. You got to do what you're told. Don't matter if the order is to slap some food out of a crying, hungry baby's hand. Couldn't do it.
American people, but with the entire world. And this guy is supposed to be the progressive hero.
Yeah, what do we need Bernie to do?
We really just need.
He needed to retire.
Leave room for other people who are actually going to fight for us.
Right.
We're going to fight for peace because he obviously isn't courageous enough to fight for peace.
Peace, solidarity.
That was That was a great video. Wow, that was actually a great video that was covered some good things. So, oops, I didn't mean to do that. We were here. Let me go to the next video. My bad, everybody. So that's the one we just watched. Let's go to the next one.
To end the war in Ukraine, end U.S. funding for the war, no funding for war, funding for health care.
Jimmy Lee is from Burlington, Vermont. He's a constituent of Bernie Sanders getting arrested.
Yeah, so Bernie doesn't even want to talk to his constituency. That is so cowardly.
What are we demanding Bernie do, Jimmy?
We want him to end the war. Speak out against the war. If he spoke out against the war, it would make a huge difference. It would make a huge difference.
Yes.
He's lined up for using and abusing Ukrainians. And he's been supporting using and abusing Vermonters who live in the terrible noise zone of the F-35 at the airport. 115 decibel F-35 taking off and landing in a city. It's a crime. And Bernie supports that. He's
you hear that?
A supporter of assaulting people.
Apparently, some military aircraft lands in this particular area, and he supports that. He doesn't care about the noise. Who is Bernie Sanders? Who is this guy? I think we're going through the transition of him going from Annika, making the transition. So this is that fight, and I forget which part of the trilogy. Maybe is it 5 or 6? Is it 1? I can't remember which one it is, but you know where he's fighting, and he's one. I can't remember if one of his limbs is gone. He's still trying to fight. And then the Sith guy comes over and says, man, you might as well take your fucking place. Let us hook this. They take him and hook him up. This is the transition. The Democratic Party took Bernie Sanders, this corpse, this body that was fighting the good and got caught up in this fight. And they remade him into Darth Vader. That's literally what we're seeing. We're seeing happen. Oh, thank you. Episode 3. I was like, no, it's not. Because you know how they came out, the original was 4, 5, 6. And then I was like, wait, which one is it? Because they redid it. It was 3. And I was trying to think, is it 2, 3? Thank you. Episode 3, where the fight happens. So it's a perfect analogy of just because we are all just like, what the fuck is happening here? This is so crazy. Here's the last video right here.
Bernie is for diplomacy. I'm here to remind him that he knows diplomacy is the right thing. He knows peace is the right thing. I'm here to tell him he needs peace. He needs to call on Biden to go to the negotiating table. Not go tell us the Putin war.
Okay, here just goes another one arrested for holding Bernie's quote. Thank you.
Who else was
it? All right, let's get a picture holding Bernie's quote here.
While you get arrested.
Why are they arresting you?
Why
are they arresting you? For holding a sign?
Leslie, why are they arresting you?
Yeah, peace is un-American. Yes, peace is un-American. Now, I mean, from the inception, the genocide of the indigenous people who are part of my ancestry, and then the enslavement. Like, so yes, that is their DNA. Yes, I heard somebody. I'll rewind it so you guys can, an audience can hear. Or actually, it's not coming up where I can rewind it. I'll just play it.
Side for us. Just one side. Let the media, the cameras go down.
So my question would be, what can people do after this? This is the calm protesting. You go to the office, you try to talk to your rep that you're paying with your tax dollars. Everything he gets is from you, and he doesn't let you. You're peaceful protesting, but they're still going to do it. So what do? You just give up? That's the question. And that's where we're at when we're talking about people who are a little more radical like RBN and others. Is that we feel these peaceful protests, and this is good, don't get me wrong. We feel that they're not going to produce the results quick enough at a substantial level to save as many people as we can. So there needs to be an uptick in what we do to see if that produces results. And if it doesn't, you keep upticking it, and you keep upticking it until you get results. Wow, getting some super chats. So I'll get to those in just a little bit. Let me go back here and see if there's any other part of this segment here. Just terrible. I am just gonna do a quick search. This is a breaking story. So I'm gonna do a quick search just to see if anything else came through. I'm sorry, if anything else since I've been online, any news on this, like any more arrests, Bernie Sanders. I'll just do protest. Let's see what comes up here. A bit here. Let's see. Oh, it's just people saying this is the old Bernie right here. So let's go into this one. I remember when Bernie was shown in numerous protests, even the one of him in college being dragged away by police protesting against segregated housing. This is Anakin Skywalker. This is when he was Anakin. I say Anakin. Anakin. That's who this is. He's no longer that. He's transitioned already. Oop. This mouse might be losing power. Let's go out of this here. Oh, this is from a quote tweeted Rome. Let's see what Rome said here. The most progressive politician just had a man arrested for calling for peace. F Bernie, no more funding for Ukraine. So maybe I should go to the quote tweets and maybe that'll help. So let's go to some of these quote tweets and see who do we have here. And that may help me get some of more. So here is Comrade Misty. Not the first time this scumbag has had peace activists arrested. F Bernie. We read the one from Rome. Here's Anya, and she was just on with on the Sabby show not too long ago. Outraged to see Sanders order the arrest of my friend Leo Flores for simply holding up a sign quoting his own call for peace negotiations in Ukraine. And then here's Heartland's Media. Damn, Bernie always reaching new lows and spot on, Kit. And here's Paul. Bernie Sanders is a cluster bomb Biden Democrat. You can say that again. I'm going to retweet that one too. So, like, this is what you're going to just throw your legacy away on the Ukraine war that clearly is falling apart. Clearly, people are talking about corruption on the floor in Ukraine. And then it was a story I didn't even get a chance to, but Politico has a story out a couple of days ago of how one of the problems with the funding is that you or the allies might walk away because there's so much corruption. There's so much corruption that the allies may walk away from Ukraine. Let me see if I have that. Yes. Okay, so Ukraine funding. They might walk away. Don't have it there. But I do want to show you the item, the Bernie Sanders item. Did I pass it already? Here we go. And I'll close it out here. This is a good bookend to put here. And this is just to show you, this is the tweet that people were referring to, or somebody referred to, saying how just a few days ago he was saying this. I look forward to, and this was on the 30th, so we're talking 4 days ago. I look forward to seeing Congress provide in the very near future, I would assume that's what he means, financial support for Ukraine, which is valiantly struggling against Russian aggression. I swear there got to be somebody else tweeting this guy. It's almost like he has a completely different brain. But then let's end it right here with this video from Max Blumenthal. Shout out to Max Blumenthal of Michael Parenti talking about Bernie Sanders, and let's listen.
Yeah, I think it's great. The trouble is he's still not saying anything about foreign policy. He's still not criticizing. The empire feeds off the republic. We don't need an empire with 70 military bases, 700 military bases all over the world. We don't need to be fighting 2, 3, 4, 5 wars all at the same time. This is crazy. That's all. Bernie hasn't said a word about those things. He hasn't. He's just not said.
You notice how Bernie Sanders, there's 2 times Bernie Sanders has been asked in interviews where his response is, I don't know that much about it. It's willful. In laws, I think it's called willful ignorance is a phrase they use, where you're going, I don't want to know. The NATO left does this too about Ukraine and Nazis. I don't know that much about it. And it's over here. The information's over here. And this is what they do. I don't know about that. Yes.
Said anything about it. So he's good on local issues. He's really, I think he's a liberal Democrat. He's not a socialist or not even really a left progressive. He's just sort of he'd be a good liberal Democrat. But look at what he says. He says, and we want the rich to pay their share too. What do you mean? We want to stop having the rich rule our lives and rule our minds. That's what we want. And I think he could do a lot better on that. And he's going to have to say, it's not just me. I was alone years ago about his position on foreign policy, but a number of other people have brought it up now too. So he will have to start saying something about foreign policy, which would put him at odds with the national security state boys who play for keep. When you get into arguments with them, you got to be careful about your plane crashing or your car skidding and going off the road, or a lone assassin coming over and killing you.
So maybe that's what Bernie fears. I don't know, but it's pretty terrible to see what he's become. And we're going to end that segment there. And now let's get right into the forced to vote stuff. We're going to go. Actually, no, let's make sure. Let me make sure I read some super chats. But what's coming up next is the main story, and that is Briahna Joy Gray was right. Absolutely on forced to vote and some other things. And we're going to be discussing that next in depth here. But let's read some super chats first. I think I see 3. All right. First one. This one is from Christian999. Yo, CJ, what's up? I got 5 on that phone. Thank you, sir. Or Christian. Thank you. I don't know if it's a male or not. Assuming. Oh, yeah, in the picture. Yeah. So thank you, sir. Yo, everybody chip in. We gotta take care of our own. CJ's always on point. Appreciate it. Appreciate the love. Thank you for the super chat. And then another one from the Willie Bragg Show. 2023 Bernie is nothing like 2016 and 2020 Bernie Sanders. I remember 1990s Bernie Sanders when he was actually a radical in the in the 90s, you would only be able to see Bernie Sanders if you watch C-SPAN, because they never showed him, because what he would be saying to them was so outrageously out of bounds. No war, what? You get what I'm saying? So they would never put him on unless they wanted to talk about the fringe person. Yeah. So Bernie Sanders has been in the cut for a while when he was was fighting the good fight. This one, National Endowment for Disinformation, NED, Thank you for this super chat. Teflon Dawn. There we go. There were good people on both sides. Canadian Parliament, here weak Nazis, but not a trucker protest against mandates. Thank you so much for all the super chats. Let's just check some other comments too. Let me see who's in the chat here. Some C-SPAN comments. I see a lot of regulars. What's up, everybody? Matt Miller there. A Parenti. P-A-R. And then the rest is right. P-A-R. YouTube did not alert me. Of course they did not. That is the reason why you got to get on our Substack. And also check to see if you are subscribed, because they do unsubscribe a lot of people. But if you have been unsubscribed, make sure you get subscribed. Also, for notifications, you can join our Substack scrolling there at the bottom. We are currently at 223 likes. Thank you so much for everybody that has hit that like button. We're currently we got up to 485 people concurrently watching at one time, so we can clearly get those likes up. Let's have a target of 400. Let's have a target of 400. And let me just update these other numbers, and then we can get started. So 400 is the target. And let's get into what story did I say? Oh yeah, the Briahna Joy Gray story we're gonna get into now. And I'm supposed to shout out our Patreon. Here's our Patreon. Become a Patreon member. We got 5 tiers, I believe, one for each member with a little special unique name. Or you can create your own tier for as little as $2, I believe, is the lowest you could do. So if you want to create your own tier for $2 a month and you're able to afford that, it goes to things like paying for our editor. We do give her an equal share of whatever we make from Patreon. So please support her in that way. If you like some of the work she does, and she does some great work. Here's our 18 version of RBN when she made us into the 18. And then here is when we were looking for some RBN families to join our DM retweet group. And then here's like a fundraiser, and you've seen some of the other ones she did yesterday. You know about the one she did today. So these are some of the graphics that she does. So if you're interested in supporting her along with us, best way is through our Patreon. Here's our email address if you need to contact us. And now where is the Bree? Let's get into this topic here. I think I read all of the super chats. Yes. Yeah, let's get into the main story. Let's bring this down, and I'm going to show you some, and you can start here with the segment. Bree was right when it comes to force the vote, and what I want to do first is just kind of show you some of the tweets that even spun this spun this topic, and giving Bree her sort of just due her flowers per se for her relentless advocacy for force to vote. When I was just researching some of the footage, she would either be in the interview or people would reference her in the interview. So right here, Bree was right. Now I'm going to go all the way down to the bottom and do this in sort of an order of how I saw everything. Actually I didn't. So this was one of the first tweets. No, this wasn't the first tweet I saw. So I guess they're kind of out of order. So I'm going to kind of try to find these that were in a particular order here. I thought I saved all hers. This was another one. People just retweeted her. So I kept getting a bunch of tweets. I saw this one too where she retweeted. I saw this one. Let's start here with this tweet. This was one of the first 3 that I did see. And let's read what Bree says here. I'm going to blow it up just a little bit for those watching on a phone. Maybe you got a small phone, so the words come out a little bit better. There we go. Centrists, actually, let me let it update on the TV. Centrists are bragging that progressives never seriously considered using their leverage to exact a single thing from Nancy Pelosi that would materially benefit poor and working people during a pandemic. So this was one of the tweets where I was like, wow, I saw this. And then it says, when 15 million people had just lost their health care, to finish out the tweet. I saw that, and then I don't think I'm gonna be able to show you what order I saw, so I'll just show them in whatever order they're appearing right now. But I'm gonna go to all of her tweets first. Not that, I'll come back to that one because somebody else retweeted that, not her. Here's another one that she was telling people to reference. It says, listen to the latest. Now, this is from years ago, but somebody retweeted. I saw a lot of people retweeting this part, and maybe she retweeted it too. It says, listen to the latest episode of the Intercepts Deconstructed podcast and was disappointed to hear Pramila Jayapal repeat the fiction that forced the vote, risked McCarthy becoming speaker, and Ryan failing to correct her. Ryan knowing that that wasn't true, and we're seeing it. The reason I believe people are retweeting this particular tweet from Bree is because we are seeing right now that that's simply not true. If that was the case, then Hakeem Jeffries would be possibly becoming speaker right now, if this was a thing. And then I'll get back to that one. This right here was another one I saw, and Bree quote tweeted. Actually, let me just go to Bree's page, because some of this is out of order here. And I want to get some of this in a particular order here. Yeah, so let's go through some of the things she tweeted out. I'm going to come back to that, actually. Oh, you see, Sabby and Bree got to meet each other at the Peace in Ukraine march. Wow, Sabby is shorter than Bree. I wonder how tall Bree is then. Or no, Bree looks like she might be in some lifted heels, or maybe crew heels or something like that. So yeah. This one here is probably the main one that I want to reference here. Or one of the main ones. A humiliating night for the squad and the progressive media figures who lied to cover for their lack of political courage. And I can't say it better than that, because she is very concise, because that's what it was. And we saw that in the video. If you watched it in the beginning, the intro video, the pre-show video where I played, where there's a discussion with Sam Cedar where he just says, no, I didn't support it because Jimmy Dore. So, and Bree was like, so it's not anything substantive against, it was Jimmy Dore. That's it. That was the reason. And so let me read this again. A humiliating night for the squad and the progressive media figures who lied to run cover for their lack of political courage. And that's what it was. It was a lack. So they came up with all these other reasons, but what the real reason was, they just didn't have the political courage to call for it. It had nothing to do with, they made it, they gave all these other reasons. Oh, it's a terrible strategy. Well, what's next? That is a classic thing. Well, what's your plan for what's coming after? What? So you're in a relationship, your partner cheats on you. You supposed to get another partner before you just say, no, this partnership is not working, I'm out. The point that I'm making, and maybe it's a bad analogy, but the point that I'm making, you don't need to have step 1 and 2. Maybe you don't know what step 3 is, but you know for sure step 1 and 2 need to happen. And what you don't do is say, I'm not participating. Why isn't the response to this? Why wouldn't it be, why don't we come up with more to the plan after? Let's come up with strategy after we force the vote and we extract something. What do we do next? That's how you build something. You don't go, you don't have a step 3, 4, and 5. I'm out. Why don't you ask to build one? Or why don't you make suggestions of what those next steps could be? Create a dialogue, not just say, Jimmy Dore, so I'm out. But let's go back to the tweet. AOC, Nancy Pelosi needs to go, but there's nobody to replace her. That's that argument. AOC speaks to Jeremy Scahill on the Intercept podcast. And let me go to this here. Let's listen. This is from Case Study QB, and this is what Bree is quote tweeting here. And it says, this is from MSNBC yesterday, discussing progressives never pushing their leadership for concessions. Even the most progressive members of Congress, you can't point to anything that they're simply trying to blow up the system. So they think they're bragging about something good, when this is an acknowledgement by the ruling class via their minions that you guys are suck-ups and never gonna fight for the people you say you're fighting for, not to actually get anything. You're just gonna rhetorically fight for them.
I think Sahil had the tweet of the day, actually, where he tweeted and he underscored that Speaker Nancy Pelosi, when she was Speaker, had the exact same very slim margin that Kevin McCarthy did. And for all the hemming and hawing that a number of progressives did do privately, nothing like this ever happened while she was Speaker of the House.
And can one make, we hear all the time the far right and the far left, but even the most progressive members of Congress, Simone, you can't point to anything that they're simply trying to blow up the system, cause chaos, bedlam, or paralysis.
How the squad didn't see this and go, what? You calling me a wimp? You calling me chicken? You know how they used to say that was Brady Bunch, those type of shows? Are you calling me chicken? Yes. Yes. Let's see. What is this? Hang on a second. This could be from a member. But are you calling me chicken? Oh, no. Okay. Because I just got a new phone, some of my old tweets are starting to come through this new phone. But let's continue to listen to the rest of this here. I'm going to back it up just a little bit. It's a short clip, but let's let her reiterate, and that's definitely a rule.
And one, we hear all the time the far right and the far left, but even the most progressive members of Congress, Simone, you can't point to anything that they're simply trying to blow up the system, cause chaos, bedlam, or paralysis, which is exactly where the House is right now.
I think Sahil had the tweet of the day, actually, where he tweeted and he...
Do you think they feel this is a pat on the back to them? Like if AOC and the squad, if they view this, do you think they feel this is a pat on the back, or this is them saying you guys are wimps? Like, what do you think the squad thinks when they see something like that? Let's go back. Oops, I'm sorry, everybody. Let's see what else. What other item she has here? That's the one I read earlier. Oh, there goes all the gang there. That's Bree, that's Lee, that's Afeni, that's Sabby, and that is Chuck. RBN family, or just lefty family. Can't unmask someone who isn't misrepresenting who they are. So let's listen to this clip right here. Let's listen to this clip that she's referring to here.
I said, Jimmy Dore's got this idea. I am a little bit hesitant to do it because I know the guy's an idiot. But the idea is, somewhat decent. And that is leverage the vote for Nancy Pelosi He wants to do it for a vote for Medicare for all. I think at the time I said, like, I'm not sure that's the best thing to do it for. It might be for a committee seat or whatever it was. I can't remember exactly, but I'm pretty sure that was the gist of it. And I spoke to some people subsequent to that, people who, you know, are just on background, were like, there's stuff that's going on. And I was like, they should try and make it more public that we can leverage it. And they're like, I don't think they know how to do that. And which, you know, I can understand, like, how do you leverage the rollback pay-go rules? I mean, there's ways. I think they could do some work on that. And so I dropped it. And then the next thing I know, Jimmy is using it as a way of basically unmasking AOC. I said, Jimmy Dore's got this idea.
So you see how it's so connected to how you treat? Because we have to understand the way they're saying it is you're offending. The way they're saying, I think we've been fighting this, or I think we've been arguing this in circles, is that they're mad at us for calling out their favorite politicians. That's not really what they're mad about. Their favorite politician is just a representative of them. We're calling them out. As much as they're trying to act like, oh, this is not personal, it's a strategy, we're calling them out. So this is not, they're not at all, because just think about that. It's so bizarre for you to be so offended all the time about somebody else's feelings. If those feelings are independent of yours, but they're not, their feelings about the critiques that AOC and the squad are getting from the left is a direct connection. It hits them. It ricochets off of AOC onto Sam, ricochets off of Ilhan Omar onto Emma. So it is an attack on them. And you hear in this clip how he thought the strategy was A-okay until he finds out that the squad is not going to do it, which I guess to him is fine, or the squad is, or let me say it a different way. Until Sam finds out that Jimmy is going to criticize his favorite politicians if they don't do it. Then it's like, wait. How do you organize with somebody like that? What can you do? It's like anytime you're out and it's time to protest, they're going to be like, well, let me calculate the circumference of the... Because remember how they always say, we agree on 99% of things. We agree on Medicare for all. Do we? Can you agree? Can you agree in the abstract? You don't agree in the concrete. You don't agree physically mean that everybody they see should have health care. They just say in a perfect world, we should have health care. If we can find a way to pay for it, that's a perfect world, you see? If we could get all these people, politicians, to get on board, eventually convince them, that's a perfect world. You see, if all the things fall into place, I'm for Medicare for all. If it takes any lifting, I'm not for Medicare for all at all. Then that then it becomes questioning, are you for Medicare for all? Because as much as they want to say strategy, this is where strategy does matter. And RBN is one of the few that begin to say this. To me, strategy is 1A to the policy. So yes, you got to agree on the policy, but the very next thing, like not even 2, 1A is strategy. Because of your strategy, and I use this analogy all the time, if you say Your strategy is to get Medicare for all, $27 minimum wage, and three-day work weeks, and then then I say, okay, I'm all for that. And I go, what's the plan to get it? And then you pull out 2 sticks and go, I'm gonna rub these 2 sticks together real fast like this. I'm gonna look at you and go, man, get the fuck. What? Saying you're getting any of the things you're saying through the Democratic Party is rubbing 2 sticks together. That's rubbing 2 sticks together. Saying you're getting anything with people who say they agree with you at 90% of what you want to get, but agree with you on 0% of the strategy, and their strategy have been proven to not get anything, is that really an ally to you? Or is it just an ally rhetorically? We're seeing it with Bernie Sanders, and I'm going to fuse the previous segment. We're seeing it with Bernie Sanders on war. Anyway, let's get back to the refocus it to force the vote, and I'm going to let this play again.
I said, Jimmy Dore's got this idea. I am a little bit hesitant to do it because I know the guy's an idiot. But the idea is, somewhat decent, and that is leverage the vote for Nancy Pelosi. He wants to do it for a vote for Medicare for all. I think at the time I said, I'm not sure that's the best thing to do it for. It might be for a committee seat or whatever it was. I can't remember exactly, but I'm pretty sure that was the gist of it. And I spoke to some people subsequent to that, people who, are just on background, were like, there's stuff that's going on. And I was like, they should try and make it more public that we can leverage it. And they're like, I don't think they know how to do that. And which, I can understand, how do you leverage the rollback pay-go rules? I mean, there's ways. I think they could do some work on that. And so I dropped it. And then the next thing I know, Jimmy is using it as a way of basically unmasking AOC. I said, Jimmy Dore's got this idea.
How does that change this first part you say right here?
I'm a little bit hesitant to do it because I know the guy's an idiot. But the idea is,
how does it change this part?
Somewhat decent, and that is
somewhat decent. The classic saying by Nick, unserious people. Are you serious? Are you a serious person? That allows you, let's say he said, oh, you know what? I don't you cannot like Jimmy Dore and still fight for this. Any event Jimmy Dore is going to be at, I'm not going to be there. I'll be at it across town at another event for Force to Vote. Any call Jimmy Dore is going to be on, I don't want to be on that call. I'll be on the East Coast version. You're on the West Coast version, Jimmy. I'm on the East Coast version of the, first of all, Force to Vote call. There's ways to do this without interacting with whatever policy, whatever thing you believe is bad about Jimmy. You don't have to interact with him and still sort of do this thing, which would have been great if everybody who was part of the Bernie Sanders coalition came together to push for that. That would have been great, but we just simply we don't have that, and that's just what it is. We don't have that. Here's another video I saw. Like I said, I saw a bunch of things. That's why I said this has to be named after Bree, because I saw too much of these sort of receipts of her talking in the past, some old tweets. So yeah, here's another one when she went on Rising before she became a host there, where she was just a guest on Rising back when they were there, Crystal and Sagar, and they were actually better to me on the policy stuff, and their analysis was way better when they were on this corporate Rising than where they are as independents. So let's listen to Bree. It's only a minute.
Yeah, it's enormously disappointing. Look, there has been some diversity of opinion in the House. We had Rokana on the show earlier this week. He was very clear that he would not vote against the stimulus on the basis of the $15 minimum wage not being included. However, other progressives has been more flexible on this issue. Jamal Bowman has indicated that he's very frustrated that the House isn't fighting, House Democrats aren't fighting harder, rather. And you heard Pramila Jayapal indicate something similar. So, people like David Sirota, smart political reporters who have been on the Hill a long time, have pointed out that this is a situation where there is leverage because of narrow majorities in the House, the narrow Democratic majority in the House, in the same way as we saw last month or back in January with the Force the Vote campaign. If 10 or so progressives were willing to withhold their votes, the posture of this conversation would change dramatically. If Republicans are willing to say they're not going to vote for this enormously popular stimulus bill because they think they're giving Americans who are struggling in an unprecedented way too much money, it's really damning when you look at Democrats who are unwilling to hold the line to give Americans more, the help they actually voted for and the help they actually need.
Yeah. They just don't have it in them. They just don't have it in them. I mean, I guess it just, I don't know. Is it that, I mean, this is a real philosophical question. Why can't the left find a more stauncher, more militant person? Is it because, and I've had this sort of talk with somebody not on camera, is it because the very nature of of a lot of left politics, of being humanitarian, of being, is it that? So it's hard is it hard to go into that sort of militant mode? Is that what it is? Like, we have these professional managerial class types that are representing the so-called left, but they're just not willing to take that fight to there. They're just not willing to take their very comfortable lives and make it not. Why would they intentionally make it uncomfortable for themselves? I guess that's how they look at it. But this is precisely the reason most activists would tell you the people at the forefront of these movements and fights are should be the people who are actually going through the issues. So the Palestinians, people of color, women who are being oppressed, like any of these groups that are being oppressed, the indigenous people that are being oppressed, because they're not going to turn their back on a fight, because they're not, this person who doesn't have health care, they're not just going to go, oh, Jimmy Dore's in it? Okay. No more fighting for force of vote. They're not going to do that, because they still have an interest in the outcome of forcing a vote. I think maybe I belabored this point a little bit, but let's continue on. Let's see if there's one. I feel like there was one more tweet that I may have saw on here from her. And then I'll start to get to some of these other ones that I have saved. Now I can get to this one right here, because Sam Cedar responds. Or actually, let me go back. So, because they only respond to freaking Jimmy Dore, apparently. So let me go back to what Jimmy said about this. So let's go back even one. So this is the news. Breaking: Kevin McCarthy is ousted as Speaker of the House in a dramatic vote as Democrats join with GOP critics to topple him. That drops that news. I cover that live. Jimmy Dore, I'm getting an Amber Alert. Jimmy Dore tweets out this: day after day, we are shown that the force the vote movement was the correct strategy. And AOC and the fraud squad turned on their base and sided with the establishment. Imagine the energy, enthusiasm, and power to make demands the left could have had if they were more like Matt Gaetz and less like themselves. Don't forget the liars in the lefty medias who slander us and lie to protect crooked politicians such as Cenk and Ryan. He says that. So I guess Sam Cedar offended, and he goes, we were joking on the show today that no one could be this stupid, and yet. So Sam Cedar has chosen, this is not the first time, Sam Cedar has chosen to say this is not a good thing. Like, even looking at what the Freedom Caucus is doing, this is not good. He's still trying to play that. And it's so clearly he's just sitting on this side out of spite, regardless of logic. It's so clearly, you can so clearly see that in some of his subsequent critiques of the force to vote. Like, he still every now and then says stuff. And I'm sure he'll make content for this. Maybe they've already done it and they'll clip it and maybe it's out. I'll check it. And then here's Bree. And I do all of that just to come back to Bree. He still seems unable to make an argument or explain why he couldn't comprehend that there was no real risk of Kevin McCarthy becoming Speaker of the House if progressives had tried to force the vote. But hey, he'll always have calling me angry because he lost a friendly debate. It's sad. This is just, oh, somebody made a meme. That's Jimmy and Sam. Somebody made a meme of them. It's pretty sad because this is why this is. Trying to keep this nice. Let's keep this in a nice way. Let's keep it nice. Anyway, let me see if I have any other tweets I want to show. I showed that one. Went over that one. This is just another person. This is a shout out to Leroy. AOC and them could have did this. Now they allow this clown to gain more notoriety. What a clown show we are in. Matt Gaetz is trying to topple the House Speaker. That's just a quote. I wanted to include it on this segment here. And then there's this one. There's Jank. I mean, we already know. So here's Ryan Grimm talking against force to vote in another context. So force to vote didn't happen in 2020. And then there was subsequent times where Jank began to say that they should force to vote on something else. So not on the speakership, on something else. So let's listen. This is a conversation between Jank and Ryan Grimm. It's about 2 minutes long.
You have 118 co-sponsors. You end up only getting 60, 70 votes on the floor. And then you are relegated back to a thing that isn't serious.
Okay, so Ryan, they're introducing it and they're going to committee and they're hashing out the exact details of it. So that's good progress. But at the end of that, do they actually have a floor vote or don't they in this term, meaning these next 2 years?
Jayapal and the others don't have any plan for a floor vote in the next 2 years because they think that they would.
So remember, January 2020, force a vote does not happen. They just elect Speaker Pelosi. So after that has gone, several months later, this interview of them just talking about Medicare for all. When are they going to ask for a floor vote or when are they going to produce a floor vote? This is what they're talking about. And Ryan is saying they have no plans. So I don't want you to think he's saying they have no plans to do force a vote. This is already passed. They're saying they have no plans to do anything of the such in the 2-year span. So let's make sure you hear what he said here.
So Ryan, they're introducing it and they're going to committee and they're hashing out the exact details of it. So that's good progress. But at the end of that, do they actually have a floor vote or don't they in this term, meaning these next 2 years?
Jayapal and the others don't have any plan for a floor vote in the next 2 years because they think that they would get hammered if they took it to the floor.
Yeah, that's fine. But Ryan, so they're making a mistake in my opinion. So real quick, if
you can see Ryan is not happy that Jank is taking this position because he's shining a bad light on his upcoming book. At this time, we didn't know that, but he's planning a book. So Ryan doesn't like this answer because it critiques, but he knows this is Jank. I just can't, I can't really go at this guy. This is Jank. He knows in this particular place. I guess he's saying, I know my place. But you can see him not like Cenk's response. Look at Ryan's face as Cenk is speaking.
So in they're making a mistake, in my opinion. So real quick, how are they ever going to find out who's going to vote against it and let us primary them, us meaning the progressive movement, if we don't have a vote?
The non co-sponsors are the list, and then
so this is people who went to college with college degrees, okay? Saying the way you're gonna find out who's not for Medicare for All is people who don't sponsor it. So you're saying you can only be for Medicare for All if you sponsor someone else's bill? Or that's how you that is preposterous, because there's people that sponsor bills all the time. Shontel Brown sponsored a bill. Kamala Harris sponsored a Medicare for All bill. You see how Ryan is setting the threshold at the ability to co-op? That is where the threshold is, the ability to co-op. Being a sponsor, you can co-op the message of being for Medicare for All. So let's continue with Ryan and what he says here.
And then they're trying to put out a list of people who they don't think they can ever get to co-sponsor. So the ones that are on the fence, you target those. National Nurses United might already have it on their site. The ones who they don't think they can get, then you have to start organizing primary challenges to them for next time around. I actually think that you could make an argument that a floor vote could be helpful, something to organize around. But if they're convinced from their conversations with House Democrats that they would actually lose something like half of their sponsors, then that would be a bloodbath that would set it back, which is.
They would lose half of the people pretending to be for Medicare for All. It's just a show to them. They are only interested in the show. They are not interested in getting anything real. Just a show. We can't do that because then we will expose the sponsors too. Let's continue.
It isn't something that anybody wants to hear. You don't want to hear that on this legislation that is so popular nationwide, support in Washington is so tepid.
Yeah, no, I think they're making a terrible mistake. So obviously, I didn't agree with force to vote at that particular vote.
So Cenk didn't agree with force to vote at that particular time, but then he goes on and said, but now we can start using this. You mean after she's speaker? What is...
Because I didn't think that it was strategic or made any sense and had no preparation whatsoever, right? It was just going in without having a clue as to how the process works. Now, having said that, I think we should force the vote. And the reason for that, is that, so like both sides hate me, right? The establishment says, no, you should never force the vote. In fact, even the progressives say that you shouldn't force the vote in the next 2 years.
The progressives say you shouldn't force a vote in the next 2 years, yet we're still calling them progressives. Ain't that something? Here's another one from No More Donations. Hey, AOC, this is what force to vote looks like. You and the rest of the fraud squad are cowardly performative clowns. Say what you will about the clowns GOPs. The GOP clowns, I'll say it that way. At least they followed through this time with force the vote. And that's spot on. I think I'll retweet that one. Let's continue. I think might be... Oh, here we go. Here's Ilhan Omar putting out one saying, yes, we can. With a slim, dim majority in the next Congress, anything can be possible. It will literally take 5 courageous progressive members to get concessions on progressive policies. Yet, they refuse to do it. And let me put this back here. All right, so let's scroll up some more. And I went over that one. I guess he got Sam Cedar blocked. Block no more donations. Is this forced to vote? Oh my god, that's a long video. That's a long video. Somebody retweeted that though. All right, it's sad, but because we could have got so much out of this forced to vote. Just think of being able to vacate, because and the thing is, the subsequent thing, if Nancy Pelosi didn't follow through with the agreement in the forced to vote chapter, they would have come back and have been able to for a motion to vacate one person. But all of them could have did it. 5 people. Motion to vacate, which putting more pressure on them. Now, with the 5 squad members, maybe up to 7 squad members, along with all the Republicans, wouldn't all the Republicans vote to oust Nancy Pelosi? So also because if you have force a vote, you got to be in and you force a vote and they make an agreement and the person doesn't follow through with the agreement, which Nancy Pelosi would likely do. Oh, fuck you little bitches. I ain't fucking gonna be doing none of that shit y'all wanted me to do. That will be Nancy Pelosi's reaction. You would have to be willing to take it here. Motion to vindicate, like Matt Gaetz. Let's go in here. Here's another one she put out, or somebody retweeted. If it's short, no, it's long, so I won't play that. All right, so let's get to some. Let's see what other topics we're gonna be covering. We covered the arrest. Let's cover some short stories. Let's get them in as I'm kind of transitioning here. Here's one that we will be covering, and that is Kaiser has gone on strike. And we have a lot of these workers in California. Like I said, California is going to be one of the epicenters for a lot of this striking, because there's a lot of the workers that involved in a lot of this striking is in California. So this right here, this is Kaiser permit. I think it's Kaiser permanent there. Kaiser workers go on strike, and I believe it's how many thousand workers is it? 75,000. So let me put that on the caption here, and we'll cover this quickly before we get into one of our longer topics here. All right, so let's put the caption up. Let's quickly cover this. Hit that like button. Now, all of you should be here also interested in labor stories. So let's make sure we're showing love to stories like this, the labor stories, labor unions. We can't talk about general strikes, and then when it gets to unions, we turn our eyes and ears off. Okay, because that's one and the same. We can't be talking about general strike and movement building if we're not willing to even start sort of at the ground level, which probably would be something like a union or striking. So we're at 339 likes, and our target is 400. So 60 more to get to our target. Thank you for everybody to hit that like button. So let's get to this. Let me make sure I don't have any super chats. Hang on a second here. Oh, I do. So let me read the 2 new super chats I got, and then I'll start the story. Thank you for this super sticker from a Biden 71, showing some love for the chat and the stream. And here's another one here from Sam. Sam says, in late 90s, Bernie supported NATO bombing of Yugoslavia. Yes, I do. Now, at the time, I wasn't into politics like that, but I do recall the Yugoslavia thing going. Yugoslavia pilots recall dropped poison, disease, animals, rats out of civilian targets. Thank you, Sam, for that information. And like Michael Parenti always said in that video, Bernie Sanders has always been terrible on foreign policy. And he was saying how he was one of the few people in the beginning bringing that point up. Now everybody has that critique of Bernie, but he said he was one of the lone people back in the day. But let's get to this. This is some exciting news because there's so much labor activity going on. There's so much of it going on. But here's Claudia de la Cruz, or an organization. I don't know if this is her, an organization that supports her, tweeting this out. And it says, Kaiser healthcare workers are now coming from what's theirs. We stand with the over 75,000 healthcare workers going on strike today. Let's fight for a society where workers have control and dignified working conditions. And that is one of the photographs there. I don't know if that's actual or something else, but let me go to Kaiser strike again here. So let's go to another one I have here. Here goes another one here. This one I think is accompanied by an article. I'll zoom out just a little bit. Breaking: 75,000 Kaiser Permanente workers walk off the job today in what is set to be the largest healthcare strike in U.S. history. The union says the company is not bargaining in good faith to address dire staffing shortage, because dire staffing shortage is the business model. That's the business model of capitalism. You have one worker work the job of 2 or 3 workers. That is actually a business model. And I'm sure I'll probably be blacked out on this Washington Post article, but their headline says more than 75,000 Kaiser Permanente workers set for 3-day strike. So it's a 3-day strike, just to be clear. It's a 3-day strike. Let's continue here. Here is the Associated Press. Breaking: picketing began at Kaiser Permanente hospitals as 75,000 healthcare workers go on strike in Virginia, California here, and 3 other states over wages and staffing shortages, making the largest major labor unrest in the U.S. And I'm likely to read this one, so I'll pop that up in a different tab here, in a different tab. Let's see what else we got here. Now I do want to just do a quick little check here. Is 75 Kaiser. Oops, sorry everybody. 75,000 Kaiser workers strike. Oops, it's all caps for some reason. All right, let's see what updates we have on this strike. And then could be some other strikes happening. That's just him covering it. So here's another one. The coalition. Let me zoom in for everybody to check this out here. And this will be a very quick story. I'm just going to show you some headlines and then we're going to move on. The coalition's national bargaining team submitted a 10-day notice to Kaiser Permanente executives September 22nd, calling for strikes to begin Wednesday at 6 a.m. if they do not come to an agreement by then. So that is just another local paper. Let me see if there's any video footage on any of this here. There is not. There is not. Let's see if there's any video footage. Let me do one more check. So I guess there is not. 75,000. Let's take the number off. Maybe that'll help. That help? It certainly does. All right, let's go to this one here and read. It's only 45 seconds.
They're walking out.
So let's go to this. This is More Perfect Union. More Perfect Union, just so you know, is a Democratic outfit, but they do have some good labor footage here and there. But that's a Democratic outfit. Democratic Party outfit. This morning at 6 a.m. Pacific, that's my time, so that'd be 9 a.m. Eastern. Healthcare workers at Kaiser Permanente walked out. 75,000 just launched the largest strike the U.S. healthcare industry has ever seen. And now let me show. This is them walking out.
They're walking out. They're walking out. They're walking out. Woo! Woo! Hi, Sandra! Hey, Sandra! Look at you here, girl.
Never authority.
All right, so let's see if there's any other good video here. That's More Perfect Union. This is it's sort of new, so that's probably why we don't see it in this. I'm gonna get to that part too. So there is a couple of good videos here. It's happening. The Kaiser Permanente strike is on, making today the biggest healthcare strike in American history. This is the scene as workers walk out in Orange County. Wow, that's close to me. Off in Anaheim. I know where that Kaiser is, actually. One of my kids was born in Orange County, actually. One of the Orange County hospitals. But let's watch. Just love to see it. Love to see it. Let's continue down the line here. Here's another one from More Perfect Union. I'm going to keep saying this. They're a Democratic outfit because we need to start letting people know. A lot of people don't know that. So understand that. But the labor stuff they do, labor alone stuff they do is good. Here's one of the workers. Let's listen.
This is amazing. And it's not going to, this isn't just for us. This is for other hospital workers, other people that they claimed were heroes and that they said, you know, we were going above and beyond and we were, what was the term that they gave us for COVID?
Essential
workers. And all of a sudden, you know, that's all forgotten now. Now it's just like, no, we can't give you an increase. No, even though it shows, we can see on the internet how much they've made and profited. No, you don't deserve any of that. So that's what's really upsetting. They're okay to give the managers their bonuses, which they told them not to tell us about, but they told us that they were in a hole and could not give us our bonuses.
Don't tell the workers we gave you this shit.
And it's also just the integrity of it all.
Last thing, sorry, because I feel like I was talking over it when we were trying to figure out the name of the health essential workers.
Yeah.
Could you just reiterate that point where you said, you know, they called us healthcare workers during the pandemic, and they protect the healthcare workers, protect frontline workers, and then go on to explain how they're nowhere to be found when you actually need help.
He's good. Yes. You know, for COVID, we were heroes, we were essential workers, and we were, you know, they were so grateful for us and our help. And now times have changed and they can't remember that we're important and that we're appreciated. So, that's why we're here today. It's not something where it's only a pandemic where we need to be recognized. We work hard every day, every second of the day.
So awesome video there. And let's go out. We did that one. So there is some great footage. Here is SEIU. There's another union. So it looks like they're just posting this in solidarity. Breaking 75,000 Kaiser workers across multiple states just walked out in the largest ever U.S. healthcare strike to demand Kaiser executives bargain in good faith. And then I believe there's an article that says solidarity season. So they're just being solidarity with them. Let's click on this. Is there any good information? Let's read this. Kaiser Permanente, a healthcare nonprofit that reported $4.5 billion in profit for quarter 1 and 2 this year, while paying its workers poverty wages. Your reminders: strikes are supposed to be destructive. Strikes benefit all workers. Kaiser workers launched largest healthcare strike in U.S. history. So more good information. Glad I did this here. Here goes some more footage here. The largest healthcare strike in U.S. history is happening today. 75,000 Kaiser workers, healthcare workers across the country are on the picket lines right now. Patients, not profits. That's what they're chanting here. Let's put it up, and this is great.
Not profit. Patients, not profit. Patients, not profit. Patients, not profit. Patients, not profit. Not profit. Patients, not profit. Patients, not profit. Patients, not profit.
All right, so then we loop back around to what I've already covered. Here's another one just showing the people downtown. This looks like downtown LA almost. I wonder if that's the one in LA, the Kaiser. Yeah, that is the Kaiser. And it's like on 4th or 5th or something, somewhere downtown. Here's a workers' family co-op and shit. There's just different footage of people on strikes. So this is great. This is great to see this. We are going to wrap this segment here, but this sort of I'll end with this sort of worker solidarity. This workers, these strikes is happening because people have been pushed to the brink. It's not a coincidence. I mean, it's never been a 12-month span, a let's say 24-month span of these many different companies. Every time you look, these people are striking. These people over here striking. These people over here striking. It's just so many strikes because people are fed up, and I'm just loving this energy. I just wanted to go more militant. Me, RBN. We want to push and push and push. We're a little bit more militant, and I just want this to keep going. No more sellout contracts. And no more sellout leaders of unions. So I think we're going to end it there. And that sort of leads me to let's do this. Jesus, I have a lot, huh? Well, one thing is on Friday, we got Jimmy Dore. Make sure we're going to be talking a little bit more about just forced to vote and reflecting on that. Let's get to, wow, I have a lot of stuff to cover. Let's get to the dim. So I'm not going to take a break. Let's get here. And we're going to go with her announcement. And this is Nina Turner here, making her announcement. So let's people want the pause it and let's give it the proper preface here. So I'm going to try to skate through a lot of these segments to make sure I get through all of them. All right, so let's cover this here. Here is Nina Turner announces what I'm calling a Democratic version of worker strike back. And let's listen to the announcement and then we'll proceed after that.
Everybody is somebody. Most people want the ability to afford housing, healthcare, provide for their family, and be able to take a vacation every now and then. While most corporations are seeing record profits, they aren't leading to record wages. Imagine that. CEO pay has skyrocketed over 1,000% since 1978. CEOs are paid 399 times as much as a typical worker. Workers deserve better. From the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. supporting sanitation workers in Memphis, to Fannie Lou Hamer's work for Black farmers in the South, to Asa Philip Randolph's work organizing the Brotherhood of Sleeping Car Porters and organizing the March on Washington, the fight for liberation has always been a fight for workers' rights. It is in this robust tradition that I am launching We Are Somebody, a capacity-building organization for the working class. Our first major initiative will be to put our full support behind the 21st century workers movement. We Are Somebody aims to serve as a bridge between those who support unions and workers and the workers who are putting their livelihoods on the line by withholding their labor and demanding better from their employers. Every worker is somebody. You are somebody. We are somebody. And if we are committed to putting a little extra on our ordinary, extraordinary things will happen for working class people in this nation. The cause is right, and the time is now. Help ensure that workers on the front lines are supported, protected, and funded.
So, I mean, I don't necessarily have there's not anything necessarily bad to say about what Nina's doing. This is a good thing. Theoretically, this is a good thing. The reason I call it a Democratic version of a worker strike back is because this is essentially very similar to what worker strike back wants to do, galvanize worker energy and power. But worker strike back is explicitly saying no sellouts, no dim Republican. So that to me is the vehicle that represents workers the best. So if Nina Turner, who launches this, and she can say, oh, this is non-party affiliate. If you are a Democrat and you are a progressive Democrat and you advocate for that, it doesn't matter if you say it is or not. You launching it is going to bring that to the organization. It'll be the same thing as saying, Stacey Abrams' voter registration in Atlanta has nothing to do with the Democrats. She's a Democrat, so that's gonna influence her organization. Now she'll say it's nonpartisan. No, I'm just trying to register anybody. But the vast majority is Democrat. So that is the point. So unless Nina is gonna say, hey, this is explicitly no, don't bring your Democrat or GOP bullshit around here. This is worker only. We're not talking about any other nonsense, just worker shit. Then I'm with you. Then I'm with you on that. Let me go forward. Where was I? I was just seeing something else. That's not a good. So let me play this one. Here's another one. Okay, I was just saying how this is another Democrat right here. So this is another. Let me listen first before I say anything. Let's see. See if I have to refresh it here. But it says we're excited to have President president of the Associated Flight Attendants, she's a Democrat. Again, this is just this. Fuck, please don't let this be that, Nina. Please don't let this be so egregiously for the damn Democrats. Let me see where I was just about to go. Oh, I wanted to refresh this and play this video and see what she says, because she's absolutely a Democrat. So please don't let this be that. Let's listen and let's give it a chance. Let's listen first.
Association of Flight Attendants and a proud supporter of We Are Somebody, because everybody is somebody. And this is a capacity building organization that builds power for the working class that we need. When unions were strong and the working class was together and understood the spirit of solidarity is when we had shared prosperity in this country. It's when we built up the social norms of going to work for 40 hours a week. You could have the weekends off. You could have your nights at home with your family. You could take care of an entire family on one paycheck, one job. One job is no longer enough, not just for one person in a family. It's not enough if everyone's working in the family. We have to change that. And We Are Somebody is going to help people strike back with the funds that are needed to
strike back.
Those strikes going one day longer, one day stronger than the corporate elite who has been squeezing too much out of us for way too long. We Are Somebody is about all of us, and we are proud to stand with We Are Somebody as it launches today. Think about contributing, think about getting involved, get out on the picket lines and support the working class.
So because like I said before, I think on this network, I'm the one that that gives I don't have as harsh a criticism of Nina Turner as some of my RBN people. Let me just say it that way. And I'm trying to give this the benefit of the doubt. I'm going to go to her page because she tweeted about this also. So I'm going to go to her page here and read her announcement tweet. Oh, she is a senior fellow at the Racial Power Policy. Hope that's not linked to the Democrats. All right, so here is her announcement. His pen is her pinned tweet. Let's make this a little bit larger. And it reads, today, I'm proud to announce We Are Somebody, a capacity building organization for the working class. We aim to serve as a bridge between who supports unions and the workers who are putting their livelihood on the line and demanding better from their employees. So people who support unions. So like if you're not in a union, but you still support union. Okay. So this is the bridge between that and actual workers. And she just quote tweeted the video we already watched. And it says, Harvey K. proud to be a partner. Is this just a Democrat thing, man? That's all this is, huh? Here goes JB. Why not? Let's see if she answers. I don't know if she does. Why not just join Worker Strike Back? You could have brought more attention to them and helped them grow. Here goes J7. Now, I believe he said now you're in Florida. He was out here in California, helped us on the first tour for the poor out here in Cali. This is the Democratic Party response to Worker Strike Back. She's not going to denounce her party. She's going to continue to funnel that anger that workers have from the Dems, for the Dems, back in the favor of the Dems, more controlled opposition. Let's try to give you the benefit of the doubt, Nina. Oh, man. Trying to give you the benefit of the doubt here. Is there any more she says here? No, that is, I have muted. I'm trying to give you the benefit of the doubt here, Nina. Let's go to some other some other receipts here for this segment here. Let's go, Nina, or where was it? Damn worker strike back. So what was I going to say? What does it say here? Okay, I'll play that in a second. So I saw this too. This is on strike. This is Shama Sawant's new podcast on strike, and it puts out last week political commentary. Ryan Grimm blasted our podcast for raising questions about strike energy strategy and what it will take to win a UAW member's demands, like 40%. We think it requires an all-out strike, not a slow escalation. This is the same thing we said. Sean Fain. And this is a perfect example. Sean Fain in the UAW is the perfect example of the union being co-opted by the Democratic Party in strategy and the people. All the Democrats showed up to this bullshit. Sean Fain is giving Joe Biden an out when he's not even showing solidarity with other union members by letting his strikebreakers show up to his rally. In fact, inviting him, and I'm pretty sure Bernie Sanders is the one who probably precipitated that or helped facilitate that. And Shama Sawant calls this out, as has many people. I've done several segments, at least 2 segments on this. One of them is called the UAW strategy appears to unmask a sellout. That's what it's called. And it's so UAW and Sean Fain is so very much a progressive Democrat sort of way of doing things, where you're using the language of revolutionary language without having the backing or the policy or the strategy that match your revolutionary language. I'm revolutionary. I'm taking it to them. We're just going to go one at a time here, guys. One striker at a time. You see how it doesn't match, but it's such a professional managerial class thing that they do. And, let me finish reading here. I guess Ryan Grimm calls her out for that. This freaking milquetoast strategy that the UAW has decided. Last year, Grimm defended AOC and the squad voting to break a railroad strike. We need open and honest debate in the labor movement, not cheerleaders or siding with Democratic Party politicians when things get hot. Watch our full episode, and she gives the link here, but we're going to watch this clip that she makes, and this is discussing it. So let's listen to this clip. I'm going to rewind it to the beginning here, and let's play.
It is concerning when commentators tell members of the working class to stay in our lane, while themselves being well-paid members of an elite inner circle of politicians and other power brokers. Our recent broadcast, which featured myself talking with our correspondent M. Smith, who was on the picket line and interviewing strikers in Toledo, was attacked online by The Intercept's Ryan Grimm, who regularly runs interference for the progressive establishment. Last year, when Congressmember Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and other members of the so-called squad voted to deny 115,000 railroad workers their right to strike, Ryan Grimm raced to their defense, claiming that this was somehow a clever strategy rather than a blatant act of betrayal by the squad. In his new attack on our analysis of the UAW strike, Grimm claims we have no right to an opinion, although apparently he does, on the direction that this or any strike is taking. He argues that the squad's strike-breaking vote is what won sick days for a majority of railroad workers in the aftermath.
That guy is a clown.
This claim is yet another slap in the face to those workers, as well as a blatant denial of reality. These gains, which a section of railroad workers did win recently, resulted from the mass outrage against the railroad companies over the breaking of the strike, which put pressure on President Joe Biden to do something for workers. Agreements were negotiated with the unions, and today about 75% of railroad workers are allowed to take sick time under their union contracts. It's not the full demand of the workers, and it unfortunately doesn't include all railroad workers, but it is an important step forward. It was made possible by mass working class solidarity and pressure, despite the shameful betrayals of the Democrats, not because of them. And sick time was not the only demand of the railroad workers. The far broader issues are encompassed in the brutal attendance policies known as precision scheduled railroading, which is a fancy term for describing extreme and sometimes life threatening working conditions, such as dangerous levels of short staffing and less time for safety inspections.
Short staffing. We were just talking about the Kaiser Permanente. What are they? Short staffing. This is a feature of capitalism. You start out with all of this. My wife changed jobs for this reason. Not enough. So it's happening on different levels because she works in the office. Because I don't want you to say it's not just happening on physical jobs. It's also happening in the office. This is a feature of capitalism, born out of the, and people don't want to listen to this, but Harvard did a study. A Harvard person did a study on this, and it was through Harvard, where they study, well, we want to find out where all these business practices came from. They traced them back, and they all came from slavery. Literally, that is the article. That is the article. You can Google it, and it'll pop right up. Just Google Harvard. Just Google Harvard, and then business practices and slavery, and it'll come up, and you'll see. So we think these decisions, we don't call it, but we don't understand where they came from. But if you understood that, it kind of gives it a better backdrop. If you understood that where we are now, where the companies are trying to do more work with less workers, if we understood,
as we saw with the
I touched my headset and it made it come on. If we understood how that comes and was implemented through times when Africans were enslaved, that'll make more sense. Oh, so that's where it came from. But that's where it came from. Anyway, let's continue with the video. It's only like 9 seconds left.
Horrific disaster in East Palestine, Ohio, none of these issues has been addressed.
So on strike, it says new episodes on strike every Thursday at 3 p.m. Pacific. So that's usually when the Sabby and JB show is on. So it's right around that time if you wanted to kind of reference when is it. Let's go out. All right. I think we're going to end there as far as Nina Turner's announcement. And then I did Kaiser Strike. I did that. Let's do Peace Attack. So we're going to go here and talk about the Peace in Ukraine rally and how it's being smeared or attacked. And the reason I came up with that is because I saw this tweet here. It's actually a tweet thread that we're going to go through that this person put together. Let me set it up the right way real quick here. This tweet thread, let's blow it up just slightly. And let's get the right banner up here. Attacks on Cornell West and peace. Attacks on Cornell West and Peace in Ukraine event. Let me see if we got any new super chats before I start speaking here. 1 second, everybody. I do want to keep up on these so I don't have a bunch at the end. So let me read 2 more super chats here. This one here, and here's the next segment, is going to be attacks on Cornell West and Peace in Ukraine event. I should put the, but let's read this super chat first. It says, RBN, my daily dose of realness, and this is from Putz the Mouse. Putz the Mouse, that's a unique name. Thank you for that. Another super chat. It says Harvey K is a frequent majority. Oh my God, majority report. Sam, thanks for that, Sam. Thanks for the super chat, but Jesus, I was trying to give that thing the benefit of the doubt. That looks like that's just some Democrat shit right there. Damn. All right. Let's move on to this one. Trying to give Nina a little bit of benefit of the doubt. But let's move here. And we can start here, Aaron. So Cornell West and the Peace in Ukraine event held by Cole Pink and Medea Benjamin and Cole Pink was put on, and a lot of people are attacking him over it. There was an article written by David Korn. If I have time, I'll bring it up in a second. And also this thread though is what I want to talk about. This is from Sophie Fullerton, lecturer of international politics and human rights, researcher of conflicts and misinformation, Columbia grad. This is you. Come on. Get the fuck out of here. So let's see what this account is really about. So tonight, while sharing a stage with two former Russian state media employees, Cornell West, spelled wrong there, one L, parroted the Kremlin narrative that NATO and U.S. imperialism provoked Russia's invasion of Ukraine. This Peace in Ukraine event, hosted by Cole Pink, platform zero Ukrainian voices. Why would we platform zero? Why would they? And let's play the video here.
The precious suffering of Ukrainian brothers and sisters, but understand the NATO expansion not simply was a provocation, but it's part and parcel of an overall pattern of U.S. imperial activity that's been going on for the precious suffering of Ukrainian brothers and sisters, but understand the NATO expansion not simply was a provocation, but it's part and parcel of an overall pattern of U.S. imperial activity that's been going on for the precious.
So that's the first video. Now, that's the first part of the thread. Like I said, we're going to go through this thread here. Next part of this thread, she says, and I guess I'm going to have to recently. Now, she referenced this, and we're going to come back to this article. So I'll just stay here. Recently, David Korn wrote about West's concerning connection with Kremlin-backed activists and CCP apologists. Who is Sophie Fullerton? Who is she? I can tell you one thing. I don't believe anything in her bio of who this person is. But let's continue. So she points out the article, and then she goes here. Claudia de la Cruz, who spoke before West, argued that Russia's invasion of Ukraine is a U.S. war that was caused by U.S. imperialism. Again, Cole Pink invited zero Ukrainians to speak at their Peace in Ukraine event. Why would they? I'll just say that. Now, let's listen to Claudia. It's going to replay right here, and then I'll let it play, and then we'll comment.
Because we cannot name the war in Ukraine without naming the system that produces eternal war. It is called U.S. imperialism. That is what it is. And that is what we must fight. The war in Ukraine is a U.S. war. It is a U.S. war. And it's a war that's...
It stops there. And then it continues. Why Americans far right and far left have aligned against helping Ukraine. Here's an article. And I believe this sounds so familiar, but is this new? Let me see if this is new or not. Yeah, no, I do, because I was like, this feels so familiar, like I covered this before. I covered this article before, and it's nonsense. And it's written by, remember the disinformation person? Remember the disinformation person? They tried to create a disinformation board, and she was going to be Jan something was her name. But the title of this article is Why American Far Right and Far Left Have Aligned Against Helping Ukraine. The discourse surrounding Russia's war on Ukraine has created strange bedfellows. Yes, I've covered this before. But let's continue down this post. And then it says, for peace activists, war is about America, never Russia. Their own hard left worldview is so absorbing that they will take the side of any aggressor in the anti-Western campaign. Now, let's talk about that, because Nick talks about this all the time. When it comes to foreign policy, if the United States is involved, you're likely to be on the right side by simply doing one thing. Whatever the U.S. want, I'm on the other side. The U.S. is a bad actor, especially on the foreign policy, especially on the international stage. So, yes, for peace activists, war is about America, never Russia. Their own hard left worldview is so absorbing, they will take the side of any aggressor in the anti-Western camp. And Nick says this. He's like, yeah. It's like, I'm not a fan of Russia or Putin, but on the stage on the world stage of imperialism, you take the side of anybody who's against the top imperialist, and that is the United States. And let's continue down the line, though. Is there more? There is not more. So that was the last part of this thread here, and I'm going to go back as I want to bring up this here and bring up some of these other things here. So here is also Eugene. I think that's how you say his name. Oh yeah, right here, Eugene. Yeah, let's listen to him. Less than a minute. Listen to him speak.
Cyril Ramaphosa, who of course led the African leaders' mission for peace in Ukraine, said that he actually had a meeting with the president of Ukraine. And in his previous meeting, he had said, well, when you go to Russia, can you get some movement on unifying families and freeing political prisoners? And he said, yes, I'm going to bring this up. And in the meeting at the UN General Assembly, Zelensky told the president of South Africa, thank you so for what you're doing, because it's working. The things that you mentioned are starting to happen. And that's without any support from any of the major Western powers that are fueling this conflict. The issue isn't that peace isn't possible. It isn't that people can't negotiate. It's that there's no political will in the White House and on Capitol Hill.
So Eugene, and I concur with that, Eugene says there's no political will, except in the Freedom Caucus, apparently, because they're the ones that's leading the fight against the funding of Ukraine. But AOC and Bernie Sanders are out here saying, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? And here's the article that was referenced. Why American far left and far right have aligned against helping Ukraine. And this is how they're able to call Cornell West right wing. And that looks like that's a picture of Medea right there. Yeah. I'll read just a little bit. I want to get more into... Okay, here we go. Meanwhile, the luminary of the American intellectual left, Noam Chomsky, has invoked former President Donald Trump as a model of level-headed GOP statesmanship for his opposition to arming Ukraine. Left-wing sources such as Jacobin, News Review, and Democracy Now! Have hewed to a party line that blames NATO expansion for Russia's invasion and opposes military aid to Ukraine. Online armies of lefties and right-wing accounts find fault with Ukraine's politics, policy, and president. In Congress, 7 of the most fervent conservative Trump supporters voted alongside progressive champions Ilhan Omar, Cory Bush against banning Russians fossil fuels. Even more surprisingly, Omar and Bush are joined by so-called squad members Ocasio-Cortez and Rashida Tlaib, as well as the far-right fringe of the right party, in opposing U.S. seizing Russia's oligarchs' assets. Now, of course, this doesn't go as far as to say that those supposed AOC and these left people, they're not against the war, though. They were against that particular part, but that just a snippet of that article talking about why the far left and far right, and I guess they're talking about libertarians, and Matt Gaetz is teaming up with the far left, and that will be us and like Cornell West, to say no more to the war. But that's it. Just teaming up on that. But anyway, let me get back to Twitter and move on to the next part here. And I do want to go to David Korn's tweet to kind of wrap this up here. And David Korn, who actually writes the article, I covered this already, that's why I'm not going to cover it now. I'll read it. He says this, and I'll kind of sum it up here. And this is the attack on the Cornell West and this event. My latest, a report on how Cornel West, a Green Party presidential candidate, has allied himself with far-left activists, including China apologists, partners of Russia propaganda, and actual revolutionary communists. They're afraid. They're very afraid. That's why they're attacking them, because they know that this is going to appeal to some people like us. And they're definitely afraid of events like this, especially when there's war going on right now. And I'll read a little bit of it. It just rambles on about different people in the article. Actually, I'm not going to read any more of it. It rambles on about different people in the article. I'm so hesitant. Let's bring it up. Because I know I could, knowing me, I could go off on a tangent and spend more time than it's scheduled and miss some of my other ones. But I do got to bring this up because there's so much in here that needs to be included for this segment. And this is the article. As a presidential candidate, Cornel West aligns himself with far left radicals. This is David Korn, and this has been reported on many times, so this is not new for most of us. Cornel West, a celebrity academic, has associated with the Democratic Socialists of America, having served as the group's honorary chair. But as he campaigns for president, West is moving beyond the DSA and forging bonds with far-left activists who call for revolutionary overthrow of capitalism. That's me and us, and I believe they're referring to Claudia de la Cruz, because that's the cornerstone of the campaign for People for Socialism and Liberation. So I believe that's who they are referring to. The overthrow of capitalism, who supports the China and North Korean regimes, and who are associated with communist organizations and Russia's state propagandist operations. What has brought West into this circle is his opposition to the U.S. military assistance for Ukraine. In July, he posted a statement on social media blaming NATO and the U.S. for having, quote, provoked Russia into a criminal invasion and occupation of Ukraine, end quote. He called the Russia-launched conflict a proxy war between the American empire and Russia Federation. And he slammed the Democratic Party as a party of war and Wall Street, targeting Russia and China. West is currently scheduled to headline, now this already happened yesterday, a Washington, D.C. forum on October 9th that aims to spur opposition to the Biden administration's support of the Ukrainian government's fight against the Russian invasion. Part of a global mobilization of self-described peace groups, the event is being co-sponsored by an outfit long tied to communist organizations. I think they're talking about Cold Pink. And West will share the stage with speakers from the furthest side of the left, including some who have worked with Russia's state media. According to a promotional material for the forum, the other participants will be Claudia de la Cruz, Eugene Prieur, Medea Benjamin, and Lee Camp. And let me just read to you what they say about de la Cruz. De la Cruz is presently the 2024 presidential candidate of the small far left Party for Socialism and Liberation. The PSL split from the Marxist-Leninist Workers' Party in 2004, and one of its founders has declared, quote, "We are communists," end quote. The party calls for the revolutionary overthrow of capitalism and denounces reformist hopes for a kinder, gentler capitalism. And I'm going to stop there. This is the critique. I mean, don't threaten me with a good time, Corn. And that's David Corn there. I'm going to stop here, though. This is some of the critiques and the attacks that this event that happened yesterday, the Peace in Ukraine event, and Cornell West has been receiving, and we can close that segment there. Let's see, what do I have left over? And to find out what topic, I think I have maybe 2 left that I'm gonna try to squeeze in. I'm gonna try to maybe squeeze in 2 more. Am I going to Twitter? Or are we gonna move? Are we moving to Twitter? Oh, that's not Twitter. I didn't type it in right. It's 2 T's. That's why it's not moving. There we go. Oh, I still didn't type it right. I put 2 I's, T-I-T-T. Okay, my bad, everybody. Now I typed in the right one. Let's go to my bookmarks. And majority report. I did that one. Kevin Floats. I think we have to get, Jesus, this is a lot. This one. Yeah. Caitlin Johnstone does another fantastic job on this topic that I'm going to be going to now, and that is independent or not, RFK Jr. is still a Zionist. Independent or not, RFK is still, let me say it this way. Independent or not, RFK is still a Zionist. And here is Caitlin Johnstone, and I would say the wonderful Caitlin Johnstone, always coming hard with these articles and these analysis. And we're going to be examining this one where she's talking about RFK. And I did want to reiterate this. So she says, one thing I've learned from interactions with RFK Jr. supporters is that many of them don't understand why his position of unconditional support for Israel is such a deal breaker for anti-imperialists. And I would say I'm an anti-imperialist. They think it's all about Palestinians' rights, but it's a lot more than that. And let's continue with Caitlin. I think I'm going to do it that way. Unconditional support for Israel doesn't just mean supporting apartheid, and I would change that to genocidal abuses and frequent bombings of Gaza. It means supporting the regular bombing of Syria, the annexation of Golan Heights, and Israel's insane warmongering against Iran. Israel is always in a state of war. And let's continue. Quote, unconditional support for Israel means imperialist foreign policy throughout the Middle East. And this isn't just conjecture. We already see it in RFK's other Middle East foreign policy. And here's the example that Dave DeCamp gives. RFK wants to keep waging economic warfare against Iranian civilians on behalf of apartheid state that regularly kills children and has a secret nuclear weapon program. He really is a Democrat. So understand here. You think supporting Israel is only supporting Israel when it has so many different ramifications in the Middle East. They pointed out Syria. They pointed out Iran. Look at what Dave DeCamp talks about right here in this tweet. And I think he's talking about here. This is the thing that he's referring to. This is something that RFK tweeted out. I will fight relentlessly alongside my Jewish brothers and sisters and friends against Jewish hatred and the demonetization of Israel. Demonization of Israel. I have just recorded an interview with Rabbi Smoley, whom the same New York Post just this month called the most famous rabbi in America, end quote. I have called upon the Biden administration not to consummate a second Iran deal that would give the genocidal government a legitimate nuclear program. In the same interview, I called upon the Democratic Party to return to strong, unconditional support of Israel that was the hallmark of the party under the leadership of my uncle and my father. This is the words of RFK Jr. That's not Rabbi Smoley's words. That's RFK Jr. So let's continue with the thread. It's a nonsensical. Nonsensical. I always get that word mixed up. It's a nonsensical, self-contradictory position to claim you want to dismantle the empire out one side of your mouth and pledge unconditional support for a nation that's never not at war out of the other. If you're saying both, you're being dishonest about at least one of them. And let me say that again. I messed it up. It's not what did I say? It's non-essential, self-contradictory position to claim you want to dismantle the empire out of one side of your mouth. My eyes here. I need to get some glasses. My eyes here. All right. One side of your mouth and pledge unconditional support for a nation that's never not at war out the other side. If you're saying both, you're being dishonest about at least one of them. And that's nonsensical. I'm sorry, I said that wrong earlier. Here. Yep. It touches all aspects of Middle East policy. Here's another example from Dave DeCamp. This is extra true now that the U.S. is trying to broker a Saudi-Israel normalization deal because the Saudis want a NATO-style security guarantee from the U.S. as a condition of the deal. Just terrible. The ones who do understand the objection claim Kennedy just trying to avoid being canceled and assassinated for criticizing Israel, but that's silly. Criticism of Israel has more mainstream acceptance than ever before. Mainstream pundits and politicians do it all the time. So she's answering the pushback that some people say, well, he's just doing that so he doesn't get assassinated. Like his brother, like his uncle and his father. He's just taking this position. And she said, no. This is widely a criticism now that is widely accepted as a criticism. Criticizing Israel is not the untouchable third rail it used to be back before 2014 war on Gaza. I get way more pushback criticizing the establishment Ukraine narrative, yes, than I get criticizing the establishment narrative on Israel. Yet Kennedy chooses it anyway. Members of the squad criticize Israel all the time. Sure, they're still in the minority, but if you want to take a stand against the U.S. war machine, you will always necessarily be in the minority. So that's a good point. I feel so bad about reading this wrong. I hope everybody understands. So let me read it again. It's nonsensical, self-contradictory. My eyes are coming back. It's nonsensical, self-contradictory position to claim you want to dismantle the empire on one side of your mouth and pledge unconditional support for a nation that's never at war, not at war, out of the other side. It's like, that is very weird that he's talking so much against the deep state, against the war state, against the military industrial complex, but Israel, I'm behind. Like, that just doesn't match, and I get the point that she's making. Apologies again for jumbling that particular part of the thread, and I think we can end that part here, and I'm almost done here. I'm going to be getting out of here very soon. Let me read another super chat while I prepare the next segment here. And so, do got a couple of super chats, or one more new super chat since the last one. Here's RFK Sean Brock. RFK Jr. also supports militarizing the border, and he's fear-mongering over cartels to manufacture consent among his supporters. Please ask Jimmy about that. I will ask Jimmy about his thoughts on RFK Jr., but and thank you for the super chat, Sean. But I'm going to bring up the graphic for Jimmy in a second here. Did I download it already? Because what is the main topic? Oh, the main topic for the Jimmy interview is forced to vote vindicated. That's the main topic for that. And let me show you the graphic for that. Did I download it? I think I already downloaded it. So let me see if I had it here. I'm going to pop it up on the screen for you. I think I downloaded it yesterday when I downloaded the clip for today. Did I? I did not. Oh, wow. Apparently I did not. Okay. All right. Apparently I did not download it, but I'll download it now and I'll show you in a minute. In the meanwhile, we're getting ready for the next segment. We are at 465 likes. Our new target is 525. 465 likes, our new target, 525. And we're going to be covering a couple of more stories before we get out of here. One thing to note, if you did not catch the coverage, make sure you go over to Sabby's channel. And I always say this, you got to watch all of our channels. Our channels are like a puzzle. So if you're only watching this channel, RBN, and you're not watching all of our members, JB for theory, JB talks a lot of theory and has a lot of more applied theory on his channel. And then Sabby also covers topics that we don't cover on here. We try not to overlap topics on purpose. And then there's people that are good like me. I'm more like Nick is good with foreign policy. I'm more good. I'm not more good, but I think I'm one of my wheelhouses is discussing the progressive Democrat narrative. So you kind of have to listen to all of us to get a real understanding of what we're trying to convey as a unit. Again, you really do just have to watch all of us in order to get that. Now, let me bring up the graphic now that I finally got it downloaded. This is the graphic that's going to be for the Jimmy Dore show. This what did Nick say? Did he say Friday? Yeah, Nick and CJ show is on Friday. Mondays and Friday, if you didn't know, is a Nick and CJ show now. And this is the graphic. It has Jimmy on it. It's still uploading. It has Jimmy on it, and it has AOC, and it has Matt Gaetz. Force the vote vindicated. Jimmy Dore joins RBN Live. That's this Friday, sometime in the midday. So keep your ears. If you're on our Substack, though, you will get notifications. So make sure you're on our Substack to get a notification when we go live. All right, so we're at 465 likes. The new target is 525 and 465, and the new target is 525. All right, let's see what I have not covered. I think it's only one, maybe two. Trump as speaker. That's the one I have not covered yet. So let's do that one. Do I have a banner for that already? I do not, but it's part of the fallout. So this is actually going to be kind of together, and then Trump as speaker. So let's move to that, and I think I want to start with Marjorie Taylor Greene's tweet. I think I'll start there. Now, this is not the first place I saw the idea of am I tripping? The idea of Donald Trump being the speaker. But this is by far, I'm not going to say that because by now I'm sure some other people have come on board. But this is by far the most popular person I saw saying such a thing. And here is Marjorie Taylor Greene. And she tweets it from not her personal, but from the rep. So she knows that this is her officially saying this as a rep. Okay. The only candidate for speaker I am currently supporting is President Donald J. Trump. He will end the war in Ukraine. He will secure the border. He will end the political weaponized government. He will make American energy independent again. He will pass my bill to stop transgender surgeries on kids and keep men out of women's sports. He will support our military and police and so much more. He has a proven 4-year record as president of the United States. He will receive a record number of Republican votes on any Republican presidential candidate. We can make him speaker and then elect him president. He will make America great again. Wow. Now, before I get to some of, let me just go there now. Let's just go to some of the reaction, because, yeah, let me just do that. I want to tell you because. So here is Mehdi Hassan. Mehdi Hassan said, hilarious. They should totally listen to her. That's Mehdi Hassan. And then here's Marjorie Taylor Greene, her personal account retweeting it. President Trump is the leader of the Republican Party. President Trump should be speaker. Here goes Michael Steele. This is the black Michael Steele. It's crying, laughing. You so funny. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to laugh at you hitting your head. I don't know that person, so I'll skip past that person. Here goes Emma. Overcompensating for not voting to oust McCarthy. Establishment Marge. Guess so. That's something, I guess. I'm looking for people I know. Here goes one. You are such a phony. You voted to support McCarthy today, and now you're trying to save face by using President Trump as cover. You are so fake. You literally voted to protect McCarthy today, and we will never forget. You didn't get a second chance. You don't get a second chance. You betrayed MAGA. Wow. So some of them are coming after her. And what this is the sound of Marjorie Taylor Greene voting, I guess, to keep McCarthy.
Yay. Green of Georgia. Nay. Yay.
Green of Georgia said nay. Green of Georgia said nay. And the MAGA movement is not happy about that. And maybe she is trying to save face and say that. So let's see if she is. What I do want to do is, why was she looking like this as Matt Gaetz was talking? That's another segment, but that's funny. That is funny. Here goes Michael Tracy. Steve Scalise is just as vigorously in favor of Ukraine funding as McCarthy was. So if that's the switch they end up making, it'll be one as meaningful as musical chairs. Now, I'm no fan of this guy, but that is a point. And maybe that's a point to say they're going to go with Donald Trump. And what I want to do here now is go to some video. And let's go Trump, Speaker of House. And let's see what the MAGA world or the conservative world is saying about this. And this is a parody account. Wait a minute. Well, let me see. He doesn't say that. Is this AI or something? Let's listen if it plays here.
As Speaker, a reporter asked me about it, and I responded honestly. And frankly, Speaker Trump has a great ring to it.
Oh, they got that Dre beat on there. He is a rock star right now in the MAGA world. Let me play that shit again. Let me play that again. Watch this.
I didn't even bring up Trump as Speaker. A reporter asked me about it, and I responded honestly. And frankly, Speaker Trump has a great ring to it.
Oh, I'm gonna turn the sound off and let it play out. Oh man, that's hilarious. That's hilarious how they skipped to that beat. But all right, let's continue. Let's continue. Real Donald News. Do you support Matt Gaetz removing? Actually, that's not the thing I wanted to get. They want Trump as speaker. Let me see if there's any real people saying anything about this, and then we're gonna check YouTube really quick here to see if there's anything about this. Oh wow, did he chime in? No way. Did Alex Jones chime in on this? Breaking: Donald Trump confirms that he's been in talks with Republicans about being appointed Speaker of the House. Are you fucking kidding me? Let me read this. First, Trump can't be Speaker pursuant to House Republicans' own Rules 26, which bans anyone indicated with a felony that has more than a 2-year punishment. Second, this would be the best possible scenario for Democrats. The shit show would almost ensure Democrats win every branch of the government. You would only think that if you have Trump derangement syndrome, and I'm sure that video doesn't say anything to what he's saying. To Trump actually saying anything, I don't think, but that's funny. Actually, maybe it is, and I'm gonna put it right here. It is, but I trust this guy's a conservative saying it, so I trust more of what he's saying. So let me play the video. This is actually him saying it. Wow. So let's listen.
A lot of people have been calling me about Speaker. All I can say is we'll do whatever is best for the country and for the Republican Party. Would you take a job, people? I just want to say we have some great people. Would you take a job? A lot of people have asked me about it. I'm focused, you know, the lead, I know you, I'm sure you don't read too much in the papers, but the lead by like 50 points for president. You know, my focus is totally on that. If I can help them during the process, I would do it. But we have some great people in the Republican Party that could do. A lot of people have been calling.
Well, it's not sounding like that's his first choice. It doesn't sound like he's jumping at it. He's just saying people have told me, and I'll read this here. This is Colin Rugg. I think I always see him tweeting conservative things. I'm assuming he's a conservative. Just in, Donald Trump confirms from the New York courthouse that he has been asked about becoming the House Speaker, says he would do it. That would be epic. Yeah, and like I said, they would absolutely love this. And let me... Okay, y'all can say this. You're saying House rules. All they have to do is change the rules. Just in the same way they're talking about how they want, they're asking, will the new speaker keep the rules to vacate? They don't have to keep it. They just got to have another vote and get it off. They can just vote this off. So saying this, so let me say it this way. Are you saying that the Republican Party will not vote to remove this rule that they put in? This rule that they put in, they wouldn't vote to remove it to put Donald Trump in, especially when they view the charges against him as frivolous. So stop it with the nonsense. It's a rule that can be changed, Tristan. And here is DC Drano with the same video. Let me see if he says anything else, because he usually has a lot. Let me listen to this. What he says, defund Ukraine here. Let me listen to this here. Is he saying Trump is saying this? Let me see.
Countless reports of Ukrainian men surrendering before they are to be killed. So you're going to see, like, take a look at your screen here. So these are night vision scenes in Ukraine, night vision capturing many of the moments as Russia.
Okay, yeah, this is a different topic. Somebody just posted that. It has nothing to do with the subject. All right. People do that all the time. It happens to me myself. So I think, let me just see if there's anything else. Let's see if he chimes in. Alex Jones throws down the gavel. Donald Trump should be nominated as a litmus test to all these Republicans with all these fake charges and all these fake trials. How awesome would it be to make Donald Trump Speaker of the House? So I guess Alex Jones is saying that. So let's listen to this here.
You can nominate somebody that's not in Congress. So under the Constitution, Donald Trump should be nominated as a litmus test on these Republicans with all the fake charges and all the fake trials. How awesome would it be to make Donald Trump Speaker of the House? You can nominate somebody that's not in Congress. So under the Constitution, Donald Trump should be nominated as a litmus test on these Republicans with all the fake charges and all the fake trials. How awesome would it be to make Donald Trump Speaker of the House?
Yeah.
You can nominate somebody that's not in Congress.
Wow.
So under the Constitution,
All right,
Donald Trump should be nominated as...
Let's see if there's any other bigger names chiming in on it. And she does here. Let's play it. Here is Marjorie Taylor Greene also chiming in. She chimed in her tweet, but she's also going on television to talk about it.
But here's the deal. Now that we have an opportunity to elect a new speaker, I'm going to force Washington to realize and remember that the American people support President Trump. He is winning the primary overwhelmingly. No one's even close to him. He's also beating Joe Biden in poll after poll, and he has a proven 4-year record as president of having the greatest policies in my lifetime. We want him back as president, so why not make him Speaker of the House, even if it's an interim speaker while we work to find another speaker. I think the House should support it. I think every Republican should support President Trump because he has supported them. President Trump endorses more Republican candidates across the country than anyone else, and his endorsements win and they work. So I'm going to force anyone that wants to run for speaker. The only way to earn my vote is to beat President Trump and match his policies. But here's the deal.
Wow. Wow. You don't have to be elected to be the Speaker of the House. And here goes Hannity says Donald Trump has been contacted about possibly being an interim speaker. Jim Jordan reacts. Is this a real thing? I started this story thinking that this was just child's play, just kind of a gimmicky kind of story. This is Sean Hannity. Listen.
I've now heard from a number of people. I know for a fact Donald Trump has been contacted about possibly him being an interim speaker. Is that a reality?
I don't know. He'd be great, but I want Donald Trump to be the next president of the United States. If he wants to be speaker,
well,
great.
He still,
but,
I
want him to be president of the United States.
President. He's still going to be running for president.
Right. That's where we need him, is at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. If he wants to be speaker, then that's fine too.
Wow.
I've now.
That's Jim Jordan and Sean Hannity saying that. Oh, somebody made a meme right here. Let's see this one right here. Let's see this one. Somebody made a meme of him if he became. So this is funny. Let me turn the sound off. Oh God, this is hilarious. Well, I guess this is a serious thing. Okay, we got to round it out, I guess, with him. Who we got to get his opinion. Steve Bannon. We got Sean Hannity. We got Alex Jones.
You want to compromise in a coalition and to get the people paid and get on with the business and set up the committees? How about this? 100 days to save America. And in that 100 days, Donald J. Trump will be voted tonight or tomorrow to be Speaker of the House. And the Republicans say we're going to do it for 100 days. And in the 100 days, you get everything set up, all the investigations set up, and Trump begins the negotiations now. Not when they run out of money. They said, oh, the crisis is going to hit us in the summer or fall. Well, that's where they're out of cash, and they can put the gun to your head. We're out of cash. The full faith and credit got to do it. No, let's start it now. We know what this is about. You're not going to hide anymore, and you're not going to lie anymore, and you're not going to spin anymore. And if you want somebody in the room that understands how to do these types of negotiations, his entire professional career is doing that, is Donald J. Trump. 100 days. Let's get him in the room, and let's do the debt ceiling. Let's do let's do the spending. Let's talk about the madness, and let's talk about the Federal Reserve.
Wow.
Who knows more about money or interest rates than Donald Trump? Right now, we're on the verge of spending $1 trillion on interest a year. $1 trillion a year, bigger than defense budget. You want to talk about a national security problem? You want to talk running around? We got national security. Got to get Kevin McCarthy right now because this is a national security problem. We got all those guys, the military veterans. I honor their service. Honor their service. The national security issue. National security. Here's the national security issue. You're spending $1 trillion a year more in the defense budget, which is out of control, on interest. That's a national security problem. And I got a solution. And tell me anybody's got a better solution for right now, for this afternoon. Give it, hey, how about this? 100 days of Donald Trump. Let's get him in the room. You don't think their heads will blow up? You don't think that the Senate, oh, you can't do that. You got Trump. What are you talking about? You want to put it in their ear. You want to get up in their grill. Give me Trump for 100 days. You give me Trump for 100 days and you'll start the process of sorting out this mess. And the fact that they hate it so much is the better reason we ought to do it.
Gates. Donald John Trump.
He said that before. He put him up as.
Here's the solution. You want to compromise in a coalition and to get the people paid and get on with
I think I'm going to be heading out of here, but they're serious. You saw some of the serious people talk about it, so they're serious about it. I already played you that one. I think I played enough of. Yeah, I played that. Crazy. All right, I think we're gonna end there. I think maybe one topic I was not able to get to. Removing the speaker to Fallout, I was not able to get to. So it is what it is. Thank you everybody for joining me today. Let me see if I have anything. Yeah, I got something to close this out. Let me take that down. Bring up something else to close this out. Just a little bit more of the Cornell West interview on did I ever come back to his answer? I don't think I ever came back to his answer. I said that in a segment. I never did. So we'll play it here. Thank you for watching, though. I'm out. I got to get to pick up my daughter. So thank you for watching, though. Here is Cornell West.
Conservatives may be open to.
Well, first and foremost, you want to bear witness to an anti-imperialist, anti-war stance because it's right, because it's moral. If 2% of the population believe that, I'm going to say it anyway. If 98% of the population says it, I'm going to say it. Now, certainly, I want more of my fellow citizens to be persuaded, but it's first and foremost a moral and a spiritual witness against the American empire, shaping the world in its own interest, tied to corporate profits, and losing sight of the humanity of those Frantz Fanon called the wretched of the earth. This is AFRICOM in Africa. It's what's happening in Haiti. It's in Latin America, and so forth. So that we shall see. I'm going to fight. I'm going to be consistent no matter what.
Yeah, I completely agree with Dr. West. And, the Republicans aren't exactly against funding for Ukraine for the same reasons Code Pink is. They don't want to funnel all of this war money, the Pentagon budget and foreign military aid into things that matter, like healthcare, accessibility, and that sort of thing.
I think it's a really important point, Danica. And I love to mention that when we had an opportunity to interview Marjorie Taylor Greene on this show, and I asked her more broadly whether she supported cuts to the military budget, she said no, despite being opposed to the war in Ukraine. So I do think it's important to ask conservatives where they do plan to spend the money in the interim and whether or not their objection to war is as holistic as it might seem as first blush. I do want to stay on one of the points that Shermichael raised just now about the potential appeal that you have in a general election.